Hey there, story lovers. Welcome to Wingman Joker, where every story comes to life. Dive into captivating tales that will thrill, inspire, and entertain. If you enjoy the journey, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to join the adventure. Chapter 341, A Deal with the Emperor. Alex ran and ran non-stop for 3 days. Zoe also ran after her. 74 other men and women ran behind them. About 50 rabbits followed, hopping peacefully with blood-red eyes, spelling doom to any who stopped and watched. I had enough, one blonde man said as he turned to the side and tried to go in another direction. The next moment, a rabbit appeared from his side and grotesquely devoured him. It happened in a split second, but everyone saw it. Run, Alex screamed as she took an energy bar and ate it, disregarding its shitty taste. She needed the energy. Zoe did the same with tears in her eyes. What's wrong with her luck? She had been running for 3 full days and now this turned into some kind of a group hunt, and she was a part of the prey herd. She didn't dare to try and escape the herd like that guy. He was not the first to try it, and would probably not be the last. It is not like she didn't consider fighting, but she saw it when a group of dark-skinned men tried to band together and attack. They died miserably. What a group of good guys. They gave the others some time to rest as the rabbits ate them. Her only hope now was for either some miracle to happen or for Victor to clear this dungeon. Wait, a sudden thought struck her as she took the jade from her bag. Victor did say something about this. Can this be used? She wondered. Do you want to use the jade? Level options. Teleport to a random location in this level. Stop all monster attacks for 7 days unless you attack first. Escape the dungeon disabled until 25 days later. Ah, Zoe was shocked. Why she didn't think of this earlier. She quickly used the second option and in a blink of an eye, she was covered with a green light. She was forced to stop by a strange force for a second as the rabbits passed her. She knew that they would not attack her. It was as if they couldn't see her anymore. Use the jade, she screamed to Alex who was already a mile away. Alex, hearing her, quickly took out her jade, and so did some of the players who followed. Only 8 of them noticed it on the first floor and had it. They activated it one by one except for one. He didn't understand the language Zoe used. Alex, like the others who had it, smiled as the jade shone in her hand then broke a moment later. For the others, nothing like this happened. WTF, was this fucking dungeon rigged against her? Ellipsis. So, if I got this right, you were brought here from your swimming pool and had been running around the forest for 2 days naked without getting eaten by some monster? Tulip asked the man, who sat opposite her on the picnic table and enjoying his steak. He was dressed in a bed sheet that Victor donated to him. He was wrapping it around his giant body with a rope. Victor and Tulip had already heard his story and invited him to join their meal. The poor lad was starving for the last couple of days. Yes, exactly, he nodded. Why weren't you eaten? She asked rudely. Aren't you appetizing enough? I kept running, and they didn't follow me, he said, not caring about the way she talked. Did you meet any other groups? Victor asked, carefully watching the young man. Ah, yes, some dark-skinned men attacked me earlier, he said, pointing to a cut on his cheek. He tried to talk to them and promise some money, but those guys only spoke a foreign language. And, Tulip asked. Thankfully, some of those white rabbits seemed to have attacked them, allowing me to run. The rabbits didn't follow you? Tulip asked. For some strange reason, she didn't like this guy at all. No, when I looked back while running they disappeared, but I was attacked by a boar right after, and had to change course, so I am not sure. Oh, Victor smiled. This fat guy probably used the jade and was planning to use this info for some exchange later. Anyway, Victor was pretty sure by now that rabbits didn't attack scions or those who proved to have very pure or awakened bloodlines during the stairs test. They only attacked those weaklings with mixed and impure bloodlines to extract their blood essence. Only poor Alex was getting played by whoever was behind this place, probably because she was a dark scion. And yes, Liam was a scion. Name, Liam Ash Flint. Level, 0. Class, Authority, 1. Strength, 16. Agility, 15. Intelligence, 19. Luck, 10. Charm, 11. Order, 10. Skills, Ultra Thick Skin, S. Unlimited Manhood, S. Enchanting Voice, E. Bloodline, White Rhino, 71% UNAWAKENED. Fate Status, Fate's Power, S. Summery, Scion, Defined Fate. Scion, the world bends to your will. Destiny List, greater than less than world fate greater than Scion, The world bends to your will less than SSS greater than less than birth fate greater than cuckold the demon king Tomir then cause his death less than S greater than less than self set greater than get rich less than S greater than less than self set greater than inherit my family less than S greater than less than self set greater than build an exotic harem and make them give birth to a lot of children less than S greater than less than self set greater than take revenge on all the humiliation I have suffered less than S greater than less than self set greater than cuckold my brother and impregnate my sister-in-law less than S greater than. How did you escape the boar? Tulip asked. It just stopped following me too, Liam said as he chewed. This steak is really poorly done. If one of my chefs did it like this, I would have long fired him. He said. It was a mistake as the next moment, the foldable chair under him was kicked, and he fell on his fat butt. Juicy, be polite, Victor scolded. He is our guest, he added. But, Tulip looked away. This emperor knows, you are right to be angry, as this was your first dish, but next time use less sugar when preparing a steak. This is not a birthday cake, you need only to sprinkle some with salt. He said, enjoying his steak. It was very sweet, but he didn't mind. I understand, she said, pouting, but somehow, relieved at the sight of him enjoying her handiwork. Your name is Juicy? Liam asked with a smirk as he quickly stood up, fixed his chair, and sat back then shamelessly continued to eat. He didn't get to chew when he was kicked again. This time harder. What does it matter to you? She asked with a very dangerous glint in her eyes. What is your name anyway? She was planning to kill him and his entire family. Liam Ash Flint, he said proudly. His family was one of the 10 great families ruling the world. The Ash Flint family of Blue River City of the Orva Kingdom. Victor asked. Yes. Liam nodded as he puffed his chest. Do you know about them? Tulip asked with a frown. She had never heard of them. Use the right pronoun, Victor scolded. Does your highness know about them? She asked again, making Liam finally notice the strange way Victor talked. Yes, one of the 10 lower families. Victor said. You can tell as they all have the Flint word in their name. He added, making Liam frown a little, then quickly hide it. Oh, I met a guy from the Agarflint family a while back. He was a little arrogant, so I had to educate him. She nodded, then kicked Liam who had just returned to his seat for the 3rd time. I thought you were important, but it turned out to be just an insect. She said with disgust. Juicy, be polite, it is rude to call him an insect. Use the words, lower species, or, low life, instead. Victor scolded. He really wanted to cure her arrogance, but sometimes he needed to play his role. Tulip nodded. Yes, the stupid emperor was right. Her fine language had gotten a little corrupted after traveling with Rain and Ray. Why are you kicking me again? Liam shouted as he came running. That last one sent him a few yards away and made him hit a tree, but surprisingly he was fine. What family are you from anyway, acting all high and mighty? He asked as he shamelessly took another steak that had just gotten done and began to eat it. Listen, I am from the sun. She paused as she noticed Victor who was looking at him with expecting eyes. The sun? Liam asked. It is not something a lowlife like you should hear. She interjected and looked away. Damn it, she almost spilled it. What about you? He asked Victor but stopped as Victor put a sword to his throat. Use the fucking right pronouns. Victor scolded. How many times does this emperor have to repeat himself? Ah, where is your highness from? What is your highness's name anyway? He asked with a mouth dripping with grease. Listen, Victor said as he withdrew his sword and then cleared his throat, making Tulip look at him with expecting eyes. This noble one's name is Vic Volt, the destined emperor of the world. This one has no home, as this emperor lives in the hearts of faithful followers. He said, looking at the sky proudly. Both Tulip and Liam looked at Victor and then at each other. Liam shot her a questioning look, and she shrugged in response. They had the same thought. This guy was definitely a maniac. Ah, I have never heard of a family called Volt, Liam said finally after some pondering. Tulip was thinking fast too. Now you did, Victor said arrogantly. Who exactly did your highness become an emperor? Liam asked. This noble one chose to be. Victor said. Therefore I am. Oh, where does your noble family come from exactly? Liam frowned and asked, making Tulip squint her eyes. That was a very good question. What a strange and very inappropriate question, Victor said with a frown. He looked a little offended. This emperor will humor you with an answer though. Although I am 100% sure of this, My imperial family naturally comes from the place all other humans comes from. Victor replied. We are sadly normal in that regard. He shook his head as if it was a shame to be normal. Sadly, what do you mean? Liam wanted to ask as Tulip frowned. We shall talk about such mundane matters no longer. Now that you have finished eating, let's talk about the business. Victor interrupted. Business? Liam asked. How are you going to exactly pay this emperor for your meal? Victor asked with a smile. Oh, well, I own nothing here, so do you accept an IOU? Liam asked casually. He was not really surprised by Victor's proposal. He was already planning to strike a deal. Use the freaking right pronouns. It is not you, but your highness. Victor scolded, waving his hand. He made a contract appear out of thin air. This is. Liam frowned. He naturally recognized what this was, but played dumb. A system contract. As a semi-player, you should know what it is, Victor said, making Tulip look at Liam in surprise. Oh, how did you know that? Liam frowned as his eyes turned cold. He never told anyone he was a semi-player. It is obvious. This emperor can see his subjects' classes, and you have none. Victor said casually, making Tulip and Liam frown as they looked at him. Oh, then what is the meaning of this contract? Liam asked after some thinking. Since you will not be able to survive this place alone, and most likely plan to follow us, right? Victor asked. Liam nodded with a troubled expression, realizing that the emperor had seen right through his plan. And I presume that you are not planning to be one of this seat's followers? Victor asked. Yes, I am not fit for such an honor, Liam said. Then this emperor had drafted a contract to govern our relationship. Ellipsis quote. Liam nodded his eyebrows, then looked at the contract. So according to this, I will be your temporary follower, you will protect me, and I have to listen to you and after the dungeon pay you the price of everything you give me 100 times. Yes, Victor nodded. And if I can't pay I have to work for you until this debt is paid? He asked. Exactly. Victor nodded. Then how do you price the value of my work? He asked. He was not stupid. Simple, you have to return everything I give you 100 times. Victor said. What about things like the moon fruit? Liam asked. For things that only exist inside the dungeon, like mission items, we can ignore that rule, you just have to pay me $1 million for each. Victor said. And if you saved my life? Liam asked as Tulip watched the exchange. You owe me 100 lives. Victor said. How do you value a life? Are all human lives equal? Liam asked. Can I pay you with other people's lives? Yes, you can, Victor said. What if I can't pay? You will have to be my slave until you gain me an equivalent value. Victor said. I don't like this contract, Liam said directly. If you want to follow me, you have to sign it. This is the only way I trust you. Victor said. You can always go find some other group, he added. Liam frowned. He was sure that most of the groups here might not be so friendly, and even if they were, they might not accept a semi-player like himself. He knew better than anyone that he couldn't survive this place alone. Make it 10 times and we have a deal. Liam said. 50, 5, 20, 2, 10, deal, Liam said with a smile, thinking that he outsmarted Victor. Ha, you scammed me, Victor gasped and said as if he had just noticed what happened. Will your highness go back on your word? Liam asked as if offended, making Victor frown, silently curse, and then slowly change the contract. Liam gave it one last look and then signed it, totally unaware that Victor planned to make him a slave forever. Chapter 342, Daycare Center. Rex, who had very tan skin at the moment, sat nervously on the steel chair as his father with 3 men in black robes glared at him. Do you know why we summoned you back to the family island? Theodore asked as the others glared at Rex. Ah, you forgave me? Rex asked. For the last month, he had been assigned as a mining supervisor in a desert country for breaking Luke's leg after catching him with his fiancée. Although Rex didn't break any rules, he was punished by Theodore who didn't like his sons fighting. He was supposed to work there until the end of the year. Of course not, but something urgent came, Theodore said. Oh, Rex frowned. Let's get straight to business. Did you or did you not teach Lara this martial art? Theodore asked his son very coldly as he pushed forward a folder containing a precise description of the art he taught Lara. Rex frowned for a second, looking at the 2 men who were from the Inquisition Hall before he replied. I did. You bastard. How dare you? Theodore flared up immediately. Esteemed father, you told me to. Rex quickly interrupted while looking strangely at his enraged father. What? I told you to teach her the family martial arts. Theodore said. Yes, isn't this the family martial art? Rex said. Malign. Theodore frowned, looking at one of the men then back at Rex. I am the one asking questions here. Theodore scolded. Read this quickly and tell me, is this the art you taught Lara, especially the part marked in red? Oh, Rex frowned and looked at it, reading it twice. Yes, it is. He nodded. Who taught you this? Theodore asked, frowning a little. He didn't expect Rex to come clean this fast. You did, Rex replied, frowning a little as if he didn't understand what his father meant. What? I didn't teach you this, Theodore scolded, putting another paper on the table. What I taught you was this, the original family art. Do you see the difference? He asked, getting a little angry. Rex quickly compared the two. No, you taught me the first one, I clearly remember it. Rex said, it is the one I practiced. What? Theodore wanted to scold, but one of the men held his hand. Are you sure? The man asked Rex. Yes, Rex nodded. He didn't seem to be lying. The man frowned and looked at his partner who shook his head. Let us see then, can you practice it here in front of us? Another man said. Ah, yes, Rex nodded. It has been a while since he did this, so he relaxed his body and closed his eyes then began to practice. Everything went fine. You are practicing the normal art, not the one you taught Lara, Theodore suddenly said. No, I am. Rex paused. Strange, he said as he held his head. He seemed a little disoriented. No, I swear this is the art I know, why am I practicing it wrong? I see, one of the inquisitors said, looking at the others. Rex, you can leave for today, stay on the island for 2 more days though, and don't practice that art anymore, he added as Theodore frowned looking at his son. Rex nodded and stepped out. He looked a little lost but seemed to not dare question his father. He was telling the truth, the man who was silent until now spoke. My skill didn't detect any anomaly. And he never practiced the modified art, he couldn't even apply it, the other said. What does this mean? The last one said. Someone brainwashed him, Theodore replied as he squinted his eyes. I need to go over everyone Rex worked with in the last 3 years, he said. Probably, I will ask my men to see if they have anything, the first man said with a smile, watching Theodore ponder over this matter. Of course, Rex was lying, but so was the Inquisitor. Theodore, when you called us yesterday, you said you had some other thing you needed to tell us about, one of the men asked. Quote. I didn't manage to get it, we will talk about this later, Theodore replied. He wanted to get the diary from Victor earlier, but when he went to the mansion before heading to the family island, Victor was not there. According to Margaret, she took Lily and Lynn to some secret place to have tons of fun and should return in a couple of weeks. She seemed a little annoyed that he didn't take her too. Theodore wanted to stay and get to know his daughters-in-law, but after overhearing 2 of the new lowly maids discuss how they were surprised when they saw their young master's giant cock, he decided to return when Victor was home. He had to admit, he was feeling a little jealous. Not because of the lawless. He was not into that shit. It was just that his wives never talk about him like that. In Victor's mansion, there was even some stupid maid singing a lullaby about how her young master's train took her to heaven. Why didn't his wives and concubines sing for his train? Was Victor bigger or faster than his? Damn it, Theodore, why are you spacing out? One of the men asked after Theodore paused suddenly in mid-sentence. Sorry, just thought about something important, he shook his head. Oh, I see, one elder said, frowning. Okay, let's head to the elders' hall then, it is about time for the meeting about the moon. It seemed like the patriarch got some new info. Another inquisitor said. Ellipsis. Thank you for sharing this with us. Ray said politely, thanking the 2 mysterious masked girls as she ate. No worries, one of the girls said in an ethereal voice. Where are the 2 of you from? How did you enter this place? Rain asked as he finished his food. Thankfully those 2 girls didn't have storage rings and seemed to carry their rations in their bags. We were crossing a river when the moon suddenly turned red. The next thing we knew we were here, thankfully we found each other pretty quickly. One of the girls. The moon? Rain asked. Yes. The girls nodded. How about you? We were exploring a ruin when Ray seemed to touch something she was not supposed to, and a teleportation gate opened to this place. He said, ignoring Ray's glares that she was shooting him and not staying that he had to keep trying for an entire hour before he figured out how to enter through the teleportation gate. Oh, the girls nodded and looked at each other. Annie, can you tell me your names at the very least? Rain asked helplessly. Those girls, deciding to help him and Ray, refused to give any info about themselves. Despite them both wearing masks, he could tell that they were top-notch beauties. No, both of the girls shook their heads. Then I will just call you Beauty 1 and Beauty 2, he said with a cheesy smile. He was used to dealing with arrogant girls. Rain, that's rude, Ray said, feeling a little jealous. Do whatever you want, one of the girls said as she stood up. It's about time we move on. How about we travel together? Rain suddenly asked. This place is dangerous, and there are some crazy dudes here, he added. This place made him feel very strange, as his body was technically a demon magnet, but until now, no demons attacked him. In fact, the only monsters he faced were those protecting the fruit trees and a couple of rabbits who kept their distance from him and disappeared when he tried to hunt them. If we did, how do we split the fruits we find? One of the girls asked. She seemed smart. That's how he liked them. How about your group takes the next one we find, and then we will take the one after, alternating like that, he said. Okay, the girls nodded, looking at each other and sighing. Little did Rain, who planned to steal the two girls' hearts, know that they were the ones planning to steal from him. Victor gave them a mission to befriend Ray for now and try to get her to join their secret organization, so naturally, the girls were feeling a little conflicted. They were helping their husband tame another bride after all. Ellipsis. Victor smiled as he watched Liam walk in front of him. This guy was very scheming. The truth was, Victor didn't expect him to agree to the contract so quickly. He seemed somewhat pleased with it too. The only explanation was that Liam knew something about system contracts. A contract must always be fair. And Victor's contract was obviously not. It was not an equal exchange. So when Victor would come to ask to be paid, Liam would only be required to give him the same or double at most before the contract would be considered fulfilled. There was another point that Victor noticed. When he gave Liam a sword and a shield, the latter replied, "I will borrow these for now." He was obviously using a hole in the contract. If he was only borrowing things, he only needed to return them later. Victor chuckled. Well, poor Liam had no idea what Victor planned. Why are you chuckling like an idiot? Your Highness, Tulip asked rudely. Just wondering if I can convince you to work for me after exiting this place. Although you are a little too arrogant for my taste and a little too flat, I really liked how you hugged me last night. Victor said. Nothing like that happened. It was your imagination. She spat, looking away with a blush. She looked really cute. If Victor hadn't already been immunized by Lily's beauty, he might have considered adding Tulip to his harem. Well, he might add her after all. He decided to leave this to destiny for now. He was not sure he had the power to cuckold 5 scions at the same time. He might end up being an enemy to the entire world, or worse, a member of Tulip's harem. Look, it's a shiny fruit, Liam suddenly said, alerting both Victor and Tulip, who walked behind him. There, on a tree near them, a single fruit was waiting to be picked. Under the tree, a lizard was sitting lazily enjoying her day. Before Victor could say a thing, Liam ran to the lizard and struck it with the sword in his hand, killing it in seconds. From his stance, Victor realized that he must have had sword fighting lessons before. Victor chuckled. Liam must be planning to use the opportunity to level up here and become a full player. Too bad that the lizard would not get him any experience. It was not an otherworldly monster, but a mutated beast. The fruit is meant for this emperor, Victor said as he quickly floated and snatched the fruit before Liam could take it. I was the one who saw it first, Liam complained, but Victor ignored him as he ate the fruit. 4/10 fruits have been eaten. You are on your way to greatness. A screen showed him his progress. When you promised to follow this emperor, you chose to give up your rights on such treasures. Victor scolded as he tabbed Liam's shoulder and activated his awakening skill. Nothing happened. Victor expected this, as Liam was already awakened, but Victor just had to try. I know, Liam said, looking away, totally not aware that Victor was using him as a lab rat. It is about time for lunch, Victor said while shaking his head and then looking at Tulip. Juicy, let me teach you how to fry eggs, he said. Tulip frowned and said nothing as Victor began to set up his portable cookware. Kya! Suddenly a high-pitched scream alerted them, making Victor frown. Juicy, start preparing food, this emperor will be back in a second, Victor told Tulip as he quickly jumped and ran toward the source of the scream, about 2 miles away. There, near a grand tree, a naked white-haired girl was covered in blood as she desperately fought a group of other men who wore strange silvery fur coats. Victor looked at the girl and frowned. It was as if he had seen her somewhere before, but he couldn't remember where and when, and that was strange by itself. Name: Harper Wiseman. Level: 0. Class: Authority: 1. Strength: 16. Agility: 15. Intelligence: 19. Luck: 1. Charm: 19. Order: 10. Skills: Charm, S. True Sight, S. Camouflage, S. Bloodline: Golden Panther, 891% UNAWAKENED. Fate status: Fate's power, S. Summery, Cyan. Defined fate: Cyan, the world will guide you. Destiny list: greater than less than world fate greater than Cyan, the world will guide you less than SS greater than less than birth fate greater than marry and help Iliad queen achieve ascension less than X greater than less than self set greater than escape my wedding less than S greater than less than self set greater than escape my father, S men less than S greater than less than self set greater than find my prince charming less than S greater than. Another one: this little girl was a Cyan too, damn it. Did the same thing happen in his previous life too? Did Cyans flock to this dungeon like flies flocking to a piece of shit? It seemed like this place had some very strong artifact that was even managing to fool the Cyans' world protection. With every second, Victor was affirming his guess about the nature of this place. He needed to start implementing his plan soon. Looking at the girl and the hooligans around her, Victor could only sigh and move to help her. He had the feeling that because of the danger in this dungeon, the world and destiny were pushing Cyans toward him. In a way he was right. Despite Victor's plan to use them, by staying with him, their life and destiny would not be harmed. What was he again? A Cyan daycare center? Whatever. Ah, what a hot girl, someone suddenly said. It was Liam who was panting after he following Victor from behind. Victor flashed him a very dangerous glare, then quickly hid it after he realized what Liam's plan was. Damn it, Victor cursed at himself. He was a little fooled by Liam's weak appliance. This guy was a fox. He must be planning to make Victor reveal all his trump cards or even his identity. And maybe even get him a little weakened. Ever since Victor met him, he had been trying to ask around to no avail. Regardless, Victor would have done the same if their roles were reversed. Be it a fox or a rabbit, they were all destined to be slaves. Liam's voice alerted the men, who turned and looked at the sound source. PSHHHHHHH. They didn't see what hit them as a screaming fat man fell on top of them, pushing them to the ground after Victor grabbed and threw him at them in a split second. In a matter of moments, Victor used their shock to start a massacre. Chapter 343, Runaway Harper. Dear Victor, I am speechless, Olaf said as he sat opposite Alex, who was looking nervous. They were sitting in a private room in a high-class nightclub in the capital after finishing the awakening ritual. I didn't mean to. It just asked me that stupid question about 3 different peddlers arguing about an immortality pill, Axel said, shrugging his shoulders. And your answer? Olaf asked. To scam them and take the pill for myself, Axel said as he scratched the back of his head. I don't know why, this was the first answer I could think of, and the system just accepted it before I could change it. Ha, it is destiny, I suppose, and a dirty dealer is a merchant subclass at least, Olaf said after a sigh. Sorry, Axel said as he sipped his iced coffee. He didn't look sorry at all, but this was similar to Victor in a way, so Olaf didn't mind. Don't worry, as long as you can access the system store no one would suspect a thing, and this class might be really helpful in, regaining your rightful position. Olaf said. So, when will we proceed? Axel asked, looking at Olaf. Not so soon, you have a tough road ahead of you. First, we need to teach you all the people you should know, so be patient. Olaf said as he took his phone and sent a message to his bosses, informing them of the results. Ellipsis. Harper sat in shock as she watched the men who attacked her earlier die one after another. It only took that man in white 5 minutes to kill 7 men. Are you okay? Someone asked her. It was that man's cannonball. No, fat followers. I am fine, she said coldly as she shrank back and covered her body. That's good, take this, he said, acting as a gentleman as he presented her with the now dirty bed sheet he was wrapping around his body and presented it to her. She didn't dare to take it, she didn't even dare to look. No thanks, she said as she closed her eyes and looked away. It was foolish to close her eyes in the midst of a dangerous situation before asserting the other party's intentions, she knew it, but the sight of that fat man's body was not something a young maiden like her should be looking at. But, the fat man screamed as someone kicked his ass so hard he flew away with a shoe mark on his exposed ass. Are you okay? Someone asked, making her open her eyes and look. It was the handsome young man who saved her. She nodded, blushing as she covered her body. Good, he said. What can I call you? He said. Harper, she answered truthfully. Just Harper, she chose to discard her last name. A good hooker name. Now sign. He presented her with a contract that he took from behind his back. Ah, what is this? She asked, ignoring his hooker comment. A contract. Don't expect this emperor to protect you for free. He said. Think of it as the price for saving your life. Ah, Harper looked at him, still not getting it. This emperor doesn't have all day. Sign it, or you are on your own. Let this emperor warn you though, this place is full of people like those, and it is a matter of time before others get to you. He said. You can also go with Liam there, he would surely protect you for free, he added, making her glacé at poor Liam trying to stand up again after getting kicked away. Quote. Harper nodded and took a look at the contract. I had to act as a maid. She frowned as she read the contract that was similar to the one signed by Tulip with a few more loopholes and locking in conditions. This girl seemed to be a little naive after all, and Victor wouldn't be a gentleman if he didn't take advantage of that. Yes, he said. Don't worry, I will not violate you or anything like that, on the contrary, I will protect you from this place's dangers. Fine, she said and signed away. She knew she would never be able to survive this dungeon alone, she was already in his hands, and she could always try to escape later like this guy had a way to enforce a piece of paper. Wait, Liam, who realized that she didn't know what she was doing, wanted to warn her about it, but she completely ignored him, in fact, she didn't hear him at all. Good, the Emperor said, making the contract disappear in a flash of light. The next moment Harper felt something squeeze on her heart and she instinctively knew it. If she ever broke that contract she was doomed. This contract, she asked as her face turned white. Yes, it is a system contract. Until the end of the raid, you are mine, he said as he presented her with her new frilled uniform. Now put it on as I check the corpses, he said with a determined look in his eyes. He had to do this fast before the rabbits arrived. Ellipsis. So he got you like that, Tulip said to poor Harper as they worked the portable stove, frying eggs for their young emperor. Ah, that one got burnt, Harper, who was still trying to get familiar with moving in a short skirt, said. Oops, Tulip said as he took the burnt egg off the stove and looked at her crazy young master. Don't worry about it, the pig will eat the burnt ones, the emperor who was sitting at a foldable table writing a diary said pointing to the pig who was tied to a thick tree branch as a punishment. My name is Liam, Liam scolded. This emperor didn't mean you, but since you like that name so much from now on we will refer to you as Mr. Pig. The emperor replied without looking up. Let's see, this emperor probably should add some unique martial arts too, this emperor knows a good one, this will make those old fogies go nuts, let's see, he told himself with a depraved smile as he wrote. Tulip tried to take a look, but it was all gibberish, the same kind found in the books her grandfather collected. So, where are you from? Tulip asked Harper in a forced friendly manner. How did you end up here? She added. The emperor ordered her yesterday to act less arrogant, and she decided to try it. Her mother was not here to scold her after all. Ah, Harper hesitated. Well, I was running away from home. I stopped at a lake to take a bath and the next moment I was here. You too, Liam shouted. The same happened to me. I was at my swimming pool. He said. This is definitely destiny. Ah, he didn't continue as someone threw a chair at him. Shut up, this emperor has homework to do. The emperor screamed, then took another chair from his storage space and sat on it. Didn't we agree that you should protect me? Liam retorted. This is a clear breach of contract. Ah, this time he was hit by a rock. Shut up, bastard. Use the right pronoun. How dare you, this seat. Don't you know how much ridicule this emperor suffered to affirm his noble identity? The emperor shouted, and the contract clearly stated that I will protect you from the dangers of the dungeon. This emperor is a force of nature, not a danger of a dungeon. He added then returned to his diary. Why were you running away from home? Tulip decided to ignore the two barking dogs as she threw away another burnt egg and asked Harper. Harper, ah, my father wanted to forcibly marry me to some depraved pervert, I had no choice. She said, making Tulip affirm her guess. You are from some aristocratic family, right? Tulip asked. Harper had the signs of a refined young lady like herself, and the arranged marriage tradition was not that common in the world anymore. Kinda. My grandfather was a big shot, but after he went missing, my family's situation became not so good, Harper nodded nervously. Maybe she had said too much. Oh, well, my mother always said that arranged marriages are the worst. She was forcibly married to my father, and it ended up in a disaster. So you don't need to be so reserved around me, I am on your side. Tulip nodded, reassuring Harper. So was the groom some perverted old man, a fatty like that pig, or a wimp like my father? She asked. The little girl really liked to gossip. Well, he is a young man. I have been engaged to him since birth. The engagement was called off when I was 9 because the groom was deemed unsuitable, but lately, my father went and apologized for breaking off the engagement, then he begged that guy's father to accept me again by kneeling in front of his house for 7 days straight. Oh, what did that guy do to make your father, who I suppose is some important guy, lower himself and ask? It happened so suddenly. The new groom I was promised to marry as a replacement lost his ability as a man, while the original groom proved himself to be very valuable after earning himself an elite status in his family. Harper said. Despite that, his perverted nature didn't change. Last week he held a wedding with 10 women at the same time. My father was planning to present me to him there as a wedding present, but I escaped. She said, making the emperor, who was engrossed in his writing until a moment ago, stop and look up at her with a very strange expression. Oh, I know. You were promised to that douchebag Victor von Weiss, right? Liam asked immediately. I saw that pervert's wedding in the news. Ah. Why did you bah? Your Highness hit me this time. Just felt like it. Don't scream, this emperor is trying to concentrate, the emperor said as he returned to his writing. Liam could tell that he was still listening to the girl's conversion though. 10 women at the same time? Tulip asked in surprise. Not only that, this guy has some sick hobbies. He went to some brothel and did that thing with a 30-year-old woman, she said with an angry blush. She got really emotional. What, really? Tulip gasped. Yes, it was all over the news before they erased it and covered it up. Harper said, I knew a friend who witnessed everything, so I am sure it was him. Oh, I have been dungeon diving for the last few weeks, I rarely watch the news anyway. Tulip said, feeling a little ashamed. She had no real friends, so she didn't feel the need to follow the news. Oh, I wish I were like you, a full-fledged player. If I were, my father would have never sold me like that, Harper said with dreamy eyes. This is your opportunity then. Tulip said, encouraging Harper. This place seemed to be a dungeon in some sense, so if you could kill some monsters you would level up, and maybe if you could get some authority points before you reach level 10, you will be a full player. Ah, really? Harper asked. Yes, Liam said, inserting himself into the conversation again. Don't listen to them, the emperor interrupted. He seemed to be looking at Harper in a different light now. You can't level up by killing those mutated monsters. What do mutated monsters mean? Tulip asked. She never heard that term before. The ones we faced until now, experts for the rabbits, are not otherworldly creatures, they are ordinary monsters who were sucked into the dungeon and transmuted. Killing them will not get you any experience points. He said. Oh, Tulip frowned. Are you sure? Use the fucking right pronoun. He scolded. And yes, 100%, he said. Then the rabbits? Harper asked. If you have a death wish you can go try and kill them, Victor said. But don't worry, this emperor is sure this trial will not disappoint you. He added as the notification he was waiting for appeared in front of his eyes. He pressed less than yes greater than. Ha ha ha. He began to laugh like a madman, scaring the girls and causing 3 more eggs to get burnt. Earlier he put a few pills containing some of his blood inside 3 of the corpses and waited for the rabbits to eat them. He chose 2 corpses with bloodlines and 1 without. Those men wearing fur were very similar to the dark-skinned men, they even had the same tattoos on their bodies, so Victor expected the rabbits to attack them sooner or later. His first plan was to make a few of the rabbits his blood slaves. It failed as no notification appeared despite the rabbits devouring the corpses. Those rabbits didn't consume the blood. His second plan for the master of the rabbits to consume his blood also failed. Seemingly the blood didn't end up getting eaten at all. His third plan, which was his favorite one, was the one that succeeded, and it was a far shot, but it really worked. His presumptions were 99% accurate. Now, this place was his playground, and he only had to wait until the ones pulling the strings from the shadows made their move. No. Wait, Victor opened his eyes wide. He was not the only hunter here. Well, he didn't mind the extra food. Chapter 344, Streaming. This is Gloria Flick with you again on this private stream. Gloria said to the camera. Behind me is the infamous White Mansion. She added as the cameraman zoomed behind her to the grand mansion surrounded by tall trees. Anonymous 1024, oh, it's on. Anonymous 9234, we miss you Gloria. Anonymous 0, show us your boobs like you did last time. I will pay you $1,000. Anonymous 7712, when did that happen? Anonymous 0, last week, look it up. Anonymous 7712, wah, are those for real? WHO knew that our Gloria had such potentials. Anonymous 0, yeah, I know. We need to thank young Master Victor for the treat. Gloria silently cursed as she read the comments feed. She decided to ignore them and continued to talk. This was her last chance for a good reporter. She would truly get fired and would have to really start showing of her boobs to put food on her table. This mansion has some really dark history. According to my confirmed sources, it was built by the nefarious gangster Nick White to be his base of operation, but he was killed in an accident and his cousin, or brother, we don't really know, anyway, Victor White inherited this mansion and used it as his base ever since. Gloria said as the cameraman focused on her again. Anonymous 4687, wow, I want a mansion like that. Anonymous 7622, me too. Anonymous 1232, me 3. Anonymous 4222, me 4. Anonymous 778, do they sell drugs there? Anonymous 23, me 5. Anonymous 1024, me 100. Now, as you all know, the last time I was here, we were kicked out by the stupid guards and I was even molested by Victor. And despite it being on camera, the police refused to intervene. She said in a strange tone, seemingly still holding a grudge. Anonymous 4222, what are you doing there? Anonymous 145, she is definitely hunting for a husband. Anonymous 7344, no. Anonymous 0, show us your boobs. Today, we bought a new drone, and we intend to try to investigate the shady things happening inside. She said, ignoring the inappropriate comments. Anonymous 2311, isn't that a crime? Anonymous 1024, probably. Anonymous 5121, definitely. Anonymous 7622, she looks really desperate. Anonymous 0, Gloria, we are rooting for you. Anonymous 23, Gloria, I will visit you in prison. Anonymous 5101, I will kill someone to go to prison with you. We can marry there. Anonymous 2311, above, you are an idiot, she will go to women's prison. Anonymous 5101, WHO said I am not a woman. Anonymous 58008, boobs please. Anonymous 5101, above, wow. How many times did you log in to get that ID? Anonymous 58008, send me a photo of your boobs and I will tell you. Don't worry, it is not a crime, we would not physically be there, this is just journalism. Gloria said affirmatively. She was walking on some very shaky legal grounds here, but if this report managed to discover something big, she wouldn't mind spending a year or two in prison. Ellipsis. Harper sighed. Despite this Emperor's group being some of the weirdest people she had seen, she was thankful she met them. This dungeon was not a place some naked semi-player could survive on her own. After she was scammed into signing that stupid contract, 8 days had passed in the blink of an eye. The Emperor was a very strange and mysterious person. Most of the time, after giving her and the others some tasks to do, he would sit by himself, writing in his diary while stopping to laugh every once in a while. Other times when they were walking through the forest, he would make sure to explain many random things to her and the others, things they didn't ask about like demons and souls. Although she thought he was talking nonsense at first, from the way Juicy began to ask him some very specific questions, Harper realized that he was probably telling the truth. This world had demons that stole people's bodies. Vic definitely belonged to some very noble family. Harper could tell from the way he held himself, talked, and ate his food. And she could easily tell that his arrogant bravado was fake, as he slipped sometimes. The only thing she didn't know was why he was doing this. He didn't need to. Not only was he smart, reliable, and well-educated, he was very strong. Other than killing those monsters that were found around the fruit trees in one strike, he had some strange skills. Yesterday, their group was attacked by some strange men. Unlike the ones who attacked her, they were dressed lightly and had tan skins. After Vic talked to them in some strange language, they began screaming at him, so he just shook his head and started killing them. They didn't stand a chance and it was a one-sided massacre. Even Juicy, who was prepared to join the fight, didn't get a chance. Harper could swear she saw one of the men stab Vic in the back, but to her surprise, the sword shattered on impact and that man was decapitated in the next moment. It happened so fast that the others didn't notice it, but due to her true vision skill, she could see it. Those men had some moon fruits that the Emperor didn't eat but distributed to her and the others. They tasted like peaches. Now, the most important thing was that other than making her wear the stupid maid uniform and perform some stupid maid duties, Vic didn't really molest her. On the contrary, he seemed to be pampering her with that maid called Juicy, explaining things to them whenever he had a chance. She could tell that he liked her somehow, but she couldn't really stand his arrogant attitude and his stupid pronouns. The first night he made her warm his bed. She was really nervous and couldn't sleep, but to her surprise, he really just hugged her with Juicy to sleep and nothing happened. On the contrary, his strong masculine smell made her have some stupid fantasies that she didn't dare to address. After 2 days, she got used to it. She was also really thankful that she got to sleep comfortably. Liam, who kept making trouble, was tied every night to the bottom of the tree they were sleeping at. According to Vic, he was using Liam's services to repel the mosquitoes. The problem was there were no mosquitoes in this dungeon. Other than that, she noticed that Juicy would always hug Vic very tightly every night. At first, she thought that the girl loved her young master, but after talking with her a little, Juicy denied doing such improper things. In fact, Juicy turned out to be in the same situation as her. She was forced to sign a contract and she had never met Vic before. So after some investigation, Harper knew the reason. Vic, every night, before going to sleep, would take a chocolate cookie and break it then scatter its pieces all over his head and torso before going to sleep. Juicy, who had some strange sweets addiction, would naturally get attracted to him, like an ant, drooling all over him in her sleep. Vic definitely knew Juicy from before. Harper could tell from the way he looked at her with complex eyes. Juicy on the other hand seemed to be completely oblivious to this. According to Harper's observations, Juicy was definitely from some big family. Not only was she super strong, she had some arrogance bred into her bones. Vic seemed to have noticed that too, and whenever Juicy acted arrogant he made sure to stop whatever he was doing to either scold her or spank her butt. This routine seemed to be taking effect, as Juicy began to use a less arrogant tone when talking to others. Vic definitely believed that his education was working, but Harper thinks that it was Juicy herself who began to notice how ridiculous her arrogance was after hearing Vic brag about his imaginary imperial power all day long. Liam on the other hand was apparently the only normal guy in this group. He was a semi-player like herself. He was also a greedy pervert young master. The kind she hates the most. That bastard would flirt with her whenever he had a chance, and every time she had to do some chore, he would sneak a peek under her very short skirt. She was getting really frustrated, but thankfully Vic, 2 days ago, seemed to have noticed that and took a pink whip from his storage space, then began to whip Liam as a punishment, shouting something about touching his imperial things. She was not an imperial thing. But the result of the punishment was a success. Liam's molestation stopped. Now, about her progress. She got 7 out of the required 9 fruits. They were granted by Vic. She was almost finished with this level. Maybe if she passed this trial she would be able to become a full player. Her stupid father would not be able to force her to marry after that, and she might be able to go roam the world and search for her missing grandfather. Harper harumphed as she carefully walked into the forest. She had been sent by Vic to collect some dry wood for cooking dinner. Suddenly she heard the sound of sinister laughter. Looking behind, she saw 2 dark-skinned men walk from behind some bushes and eye her while licking their lips. Did they really have to do that? Hadn't they seen a woman before? She wondered, not realizing that only those with high bloodlines got to sleep with women in their tribe. Harper quickly grabbed the crossbow which she was carrying on her back. She aimed it at them, but she didn't have a chance to fire, as suddenly she felt something stuck at her hand like a whip and pushed her down to the ground, tied down like a dumpling. One of the men seemed to have thrown a weighted rope at her, immobilizing her before she could attack. The 2 men looked at each other and then smirked, saying something that she didn't understand as they approached her. She could easily tell that one of the men was praising the other's skills. "Help!" she screamed, but no voice came out of her mouth. She couldn't move. The rope must have been laced with some paralysis poison. It took the men seconds to stand above her and then lose their heads. Vic slowly appeared out of thin air as the men's headless bodies fell to the ground. "You look really nice tied with a rope," he said as he quickly untied her, then threw an antidote pill in her mouth. It took her a few seconds to be able to move again while he searched the men for valuables. Thanks, she said, pouting a little. Even with a weapon, she was useless. Your Highness was following me? She asked as they began to move back. Yes, he nodded. This emperor wanted to talk to you about something, and I figured that those two idiots would help this noble one explain something to you. He said. What? She asked as she stopped and turned to look at him. During the last few days, she seems to have figured out his personality. She knew he wanted to tell her something and didn't want the others to hear it. We will finish collecting the fruits required to advance by tomorrow, he said, taking out 2 fruits that were with the men. Probably, she said. After that, we will be transported to the next level separately. He said. I know, I will be in danger, she said. No, you will not, he shook his head. Your Highness knows what's next? She asked. Yes, but that is irrelevant. You are probably hoping to get to be a full player, I presume, he said. Yes, she stopped hesitating and nodded, looking straight back at him. You will be disappointed then. He said. What? Why? She asked. Everything you see here is a lie, from this forest to the system messages. This place is not a dungeon at all. In fact, we are in a subspace in the real world now, he said. What? Harper frowned. What do you mean? She asked. It is a trap, meant to collect talented people from all over the world, then steal both their talents and their bodies. He explained, not caring about her using the wrong pronoun. Quote. Harper frowned. Don't look at this noble one like that. This emperor is telling you the truth. The moon fruits you had been eating were a lie. They are a kind of soul fruit, and their effect is making your soul a little malleable, like dissolving powdered milk in water using it for cooking. What? Harper frowned and blinked. Weren't they eating those? You mean? Don't worry, the fruits this emperor had been giving you were all fake. They are normal fruits that were disguised as the moon fruit to scam the ones behind this place. He said, making a few moon fruits appear in his hands before transforming them to their original shapes, peaches, and apples. A real dungeon system would never be fooled, he added. Ah, Harper was shocked. She opened her mouth, not knowing what to say as she watched him eat one of the apples. Why are you, Your Highness, telling me this? Harper asked after a few moments. Simple, unlike Liam or Juicy, I have a plan for you after leaving this place. So you already know how to safely leave? She asked. Yes, don't worry about such minor details, you just need to relax and watch the show later, he said, chuckling. This place's scheme is already doomed to fail. So, what do you want from me? Well, let me tell you something. First, after exiting this place, you are going to be captured and sent to Victor. Even if you are good at running away, the noble families are not that easy to fool. He said. But, the only reason you are still free is that Victor has too many things to take care of at the moment. He said. He has no time to take care of some random runaway bride. Damn, he didn't even have time to enjoy his honeymoon. He said. How do you know that? She asked warily. The organization this emperor works with is already spying on most of the world's powers. Of course, I knew many things about someone as important as Victor von Weiss. He is in the center of so many schemes that I am surprised he managed to live to this day. He said. What organization? Harper asked. This emperor can't just tell you that, he said, looking at her with his golden eyes. But what you need to know is that in 20 years or so, this world would face a cataclysm, many people will die. Our organization has one goal, and to control the world after. He added. Quote. And what is your role in this organization? This emperor is meant to be the emperor they choose to rule this world. He said simply. Oh, she opened her eyes and looked at him, finally realizing the secret behind all that emperor bullshit. You want me to join your organization in exchange for letting Victor leave me alone? She asked. Yes, but not exactly. You are not strong enough, he said, stepping forward until he was close to her. I want you to marry me and be my imperial concubine, he said with a smug smile as he grabbed her hand and put a ring on her finger. Whaat, she quickly stepped back. I refuse, she yelled as she took the ring and threw it away immediately as if she were allergic to it. Wow, that was so direct, he said, a little surprised. I might be your maid now, but we made a deal, I will not marry. She said directly, blushing a little. Fine then go fetch me that ring. It was an A-ranked storage ring. If you lost it you would have to pay for it. Ah, what, you pushed it into my finger. Yes, now go get it. If it was lost, you would have to work as this emperor's slave until you pay its price. he said, taking out the contract and pointing at one of its clauses. Ah, she quickly ran to where the ring fell, it was no longer there. Harper bent down and began to search for it. After scurrying around the bushes for an entire 15 minutes she found nothing. Maybe one of the rabbits took it, the Emperor said as he put his hand under his chin, apparently thinking. You took it, didn't you? She asked as she stood up, turned around, and glared at him. She knew he was toying with her, but she had no way to refute him. She hated being this weak. How could this one be this heartless? He asked as if he was hurt. If you accept this Emperor's proposal, that would mean the ring was yours all along. You would not have to pay me for it, he said, flashing her a bright smile. Quote. She just ignored him and decided to walk back to their campsite. Decide quickly, he said. If by the time we retired, you didn't make up your mind, this Emperor would start treating you as a slave, the clause about not violating you would be invalid, he said. She could tell he was being serious. I will just be your fiancé for now, she said in an angry tone while blushing a little as she walked past him, not daring to look back. She just has to find a way to repay him and escape this marriage. The next moment she felt a pull at her hand, and she was dragged forcibly back into a warm embrace. Then she felt something soft touch her lips, he was kissing her. Ah, she wanted to resist, but she couldn't escape his firm grasp. Remembering what she said earlier, she decided to just let him do it. She would consider it as being bitten by a dog. And it went on and on. On and on. Every time she thought it would end, it would go longer. By the time he let go of her, she could only look blankly at him, wanting more. She was not really reluctant as she could hear her heart beating through her ears. She had never kissed before, but she could tell that this kiss was too fucking good. And his lips tasted amazing. She could swear she felt her blood boil there for a second. Now you are officially my fiancé, he said with a bright smile as he took her hand and put the ring on her finger again. Ah, you bastard, she said as she looked at him and then at the ring on her finger with shock. You already agreed. The contract clearly states that you can't go back on your words with me, he said as he turned around and began to walk back to the camp, totally ignoring her. Make sure to not lose that ring, he added, making her gasp then stomp her foot to the ground then quickly follow him. Will you trick Juicy too? She asked after a few minutes of silence. Is she the Empress or something like that? She added sarcastically. No, Juicy is not cute enough, and the Empress is someone even this Emperor has to fear, so make sure not to anger her when you enter the harem, he said. Who will enter your fucking harem? She scolded as she thought of a way to escape this fucking situation. Maybe she should try and escape to some other continent. We will see about that, he said, shaking his head. Science, so fucking troublesome, he added in a low voice that didn't escape Harper's sensitive ears. What did he mean? Chapter 345, Streaming 2. Why are you sighing, Your Highness? Juicy asked as she looked at the moon fruit in the Emperor's hand. Just wishing this Emperor had more slots in his harem, but I really need to do this, he said, making Harper, who was standing to the side and listening, glare at him hatefully. All men are perverts. Last night he made her sleep with him again, but this time his hands were not honest. Damn it, she couldn't sleep all night, especially with Juicy sleeping on the other side. Harper was really worried she would make a sound and wake her up. Manipulative bastard. Damn it, why couldn't she keep him out of her mind? Let's get on with it. After you consume the fruits here you will be transported to the next level, the Emperor said. The next level will be a waiting room where you just need to relax for a bit until enough participants pass. The real trouble is after that. The battlegrounds, everyone will kill everyone there and only a few will be able to survive, so just use the wooden shield I gave you to parry attacks and keep running if you encounter a strong enemy. Will artifacts work? Juicy asked as she inspected the rough wooden shield the Emperor gave her. It was very strange. No, but this shield is made of special wood harvested from some dungeon. I bought it for a lot of money, so take care of it. Even a magical attack will not be able to break this thing, he said. Now, let's start with Liam. Eat this, the Emperor said, giving Liam one moon fruit. Liam frowned then took it. I will make sure to return all the things I have borrowed from you, just come find me at Blue River City, Liam said as he ate the fruit. I will also find you 30 fat girls to repay for saving my life 3 times, he added before he finished his fruit and a bright light surrounded him. Moments later he disappeared into thin air. Rest in peace, the Emperor said. He is not dead, you know, Juicy said. Yeah, but he is so cute, Thinking he could escape my contract this easily, the Emperor shook his head as he gave Juicy a ring. What is this? Juicy asked, nervously as Harper glared at both of them. A storage ring. Inside of it, this Emperor left something for you, a gift of sorts, for serving me these days, he said. You think we will not meet later here? Juicy asked, squinting her eyes. This place has more than 1,200 players, the chance of us meeting again is negligible. He lied. Oh, by the way, this Emperor has long realized that you are very strong and have been hiding your true power from me, so if you meet Harper or Liam later, make sure to protect them. The Emperor told her. Juicy never really displayed her power on this level, as the Emperor really did most of the fighting whenever they encountered danger. How did you realize that? Juicy asked. Next time when you hug someone to sleep, use less force. This Emperor was almost squeezed to death. He said, pushing the storage ring into her hand. Oh, she blushed as she put the ring he gave her in her pocket before biting and eating the moon fruit without a comment. This one tasted like a very sour plum. But she just wanted to eat it and escape the grasp of this perverted Emperor. Here's a piece of advice, when the chaos happens in the end, don't act, the die has already been cast, and you will change nothing. Just lay low, there is more than one hunter for the grand prize. The Emperor suddenly said just as she chewed. Your friends Rain and Ray have already crossed to the next level, be sure to find them, they might need your help my dear turnip, he added just as she swallowed then began to vanish. He chose to deliver his words at exactly the right moment, diverting her attention. She looked at him with shock as she disappeared. She realized that he had been scamming her all this time. This bastard must have known her real identity. Damn, she wanted to question him, but she didn't get a chance as she vanished. She didn't even have time to correct him that her name was Tulip and not Turnip. So cold even when getting scammed. Now I just need to find a few rabbits to kill and replace the slot. So troublesome, the Emperor said with a bright smile, then turned and looked at Harper who had been trying to keep her distance from him since last night. Now it is your turn, dear Imperial concubine, he said as he walked toward her. We are only engaged now, she said, but couldn't continue as he suddenly hugged her. She closed her eyes and waited reluctantly for his forceful kiss, but it never happened as she felt his weight suddenly slump into her as he fell to the ground. She quickly opened her eyes and noticed the pale face of the unconscious collapsed Emperor. Ellipsis. Thanks, Sister Blue. Ray took the moon fruit from Lin and ate it directly. Blue was the name Lin used here to hide her true identity. We are only missing one fruit each now, Lily said as she watched Rain also eat his fruit. This guy was super strange. The fruit he was eating was a real one, but it was not affecting him at all. Lily, who was very sensitive to souls, was sure of this. According to Victor, this guy had some strange curse that makes him attractive to demons. This could probably be the reason. His soul was already in a malleable state, so the fruit didn't affect him at all. Strangely enough, she didn't really encounter Rain in her previous life, he was not a part of Tulip's entourage. Something must have happened to him. Dear Red, is there something on my handsome face? Rain asked as he watched Lily look at him. He had been trying to see what was under her mask for the last week but kept failing. He needed to act carefully so that Ray would not hate him. Just wondering whether punishing you would correct that crooked attitude of yours, Lily said. Red was the name she was using here. My attitude is fine, it is your attitude of acting like a big sister all the time that needs correction, it is like some old lady, he said. Do you want this old lady to kick that ass of yours? Don't think that I didn't notice you snooping around our latest sleeping bag last night. Lily said. They were using only one big bag to sleep together, to bond with Ray. Although Lily was reluctant, she knew how important getting a scion friend like Ray was. Do you know that for a second there, when I met you I considered you a refined lady, who knew that you were just a man-hater. He said, shaking his head. All your perverted assumptions are false. I just wanted to protect you. You are the one who needs protection. If it was not for me and Blue, you would have not found the fruits so quickly. She said. She could smell the fruits a mile away thanks to her sensitive nose. Who knows? You haven't tried my strength yet. You are just, Sister Red. Rain, please stop fighting, Ray suddenly yelled after finishing her fruit that tasted like a pear. We are all one team here. Ray, you are siding with them now? Rain asked, acting a little hurt. I am not, Ray said coldly. She was already familiar with his acting skills, and without Tulip to keep him in check he was getting more and more brazen. We need to work together, she said. Look, it is, she paused as she heard a noise coming from the forest. Louis and Lin also heard it and looked to the side as Rain prepared his weapon. It kept coming closer like a herd of buffaloes heading in their direction. They looked at each other and then nodded. Louis and Lin quickly jumped to a nearby tree while carrying Ray, who was still very low-leveled, with them. Rain quickly followed. It was just in time as many people who seemed to be fleeing something began appearing in the distance between the trees. Help! P. The one leading them was screaming in a very enchanting voice. She was a very pretty and very familiar haggard blonde girl. She was so amazing that Rain had to swallow twice after looking at her. Behind them, as if keeping the pace, there was a group of rabbits hopping peacefully according to some strange rhythm. Louis looked at Lin, then began to move to the side before the crowd arrived. Rain didn't, he was too enchanted to move. Rain, come here. Ray, who was in Lin's arms, scolded, making him quickly wake up from his enchantment. I need to save that girl. It will just take a moment. Rain said with a firm voice, then began heading toward the pretty girl in the front to save her. Rain, Ray screamed at him, but he just winked at her before turning and hurrying toward the blonde girl, whom Lily quickly realized that it was none other than Alex. Rain quickly positioned himself on the top of a tree on the girl's path, then descended after quickly tying himself with a rope, intending to fish her from above. Sadly, this didn't work. Alex, who felt something falling from the top of her head, insincerely kicked it away with all her strength without even looking. Poor Rain had no chance to realize what happened when he flew in a parabolic trajectory into the distance. Rain, Ray exclaimed fearfully, don't worry, that idiot is still alive. Let's go check how many bones got broken in that shameless ass of his, Lily said as she carefully watched the rabbits. They all turned and watched Rain paint a rainbow of blood in the sky. They seemed to have intended to go after him, but as if receiving a command they all flinched at once, then turned around ignoring Rain, and continued after Alex and her cursed entourage. Victor, who had been communicating with her, was right. The guys behind these trials seemed to be totally aware of Alex's fate, and they too were completely lost on how to deal with her. Other than keeping her unhappy. Right, Victor, that bastard was definitely hiding something. The way he was talking to her without explaining what he was doing lately, was the same way a cheating husband who was hiding another family across the country would do. She felt an urgent need to finish with this floor and go find that pervert. Ellipsis. The small drone slowly drifted near the ground until it reached the mansion's fence near a large tree, where it slowly flew up, keeping close to the fence, then going down again when it barely reached the top. Infiltration success. Anonymous 80,085. Wow, Gloria, that was one smooth operation. Anonymous 800,850,005. Yeah, but I just have a feeling that this is going too easy. Anonymous 800,858,008. Hopefully we will be able to see some of the rumored brides. Anonymous 8008. Aren't Gloria's boobs enough for you? Anonymous 800,858,008. No, I need more. Anonymous 248. Guys, how are you changing your usernames like this? Anonymous 80,088,008. It is a trick. After you log in, find the cookie file and the number is there. Just make sure to make it unique. Anonymous 800,818,008,180,081. Thanks, it works. Yes, the drone is being controlled by our cameraman here. He is an expert who served 19 years in the Army Recon Unit. Gloria said, silently cursing for the 10th time as she noticed the usernames. It seemed like forcefully making the usernames on the stream anonymous was a failure. Let's continue, she said. The drone that descended to the ground made its way between the bushes slowly, keeping its distance from the main route. Anonymous 0. This is boring. When will we see some action? Anonymous 80,085,555. Relax, executing a crime needs patience. Anonymous 800,850,005. How do you know where to go? We can't see a thing. Anonymous 711. Where is this cookie thing? Anonymous 80,082. Use a browser extension. Anonymous 711. Damn it, don't have those on my white banana phone. Don't worry, we know where we are going. We got the mansion's plan from the city hall. Although they might not be completely accurate, the main features should be the same. Gloria explained proudly. She had to use her talents to get those plans, but she would never say that, or many of the fans would request a demonstration. We are now starting by heading to the gym. It is the closest building to our direction. Gloria said as the drone made its way hopping from tree to tree, trying to reduce its noise as much as possible until the gym was visible. Then it had to stop. A young maid was passing next to it as she swept the fallen leaves from the path. She was singing some kind of song. You choo. Tonight I rode his train again. It was faster than a plane. Choo choo. Her voice trailed off. Anonymous 80,085,555. What was that song? Anonymous 0. I don't know, but my blood boiled just hearing it from the mouth of that lowly. Are they doing some cosplay party here? Anonymous 80,082. Probably not. I heard that those rich bastard always has some strange hobbies. Anonymous 8008. I want strange hobbies like those too. Anonymous 0. You already have. Anonymous 80,085,555. We all do, we just don't have the financial means to pursue them. Indeed, Gloria said, let's continue, soon we will reach the gym. We are taking a roundabout route toward the main building in the mansion to avoid detection. She said as the drone lifted from the tree and then began heading toward the gym. Bang! Suddenly something hit it, making it stop in its tracks and fall to the ground in one swoop. It was a net that someone launched at it. I got it, some girl said from a distance. It fell somewhere here, another said. Moments later, two very pretty red-haired twin girls appeared in the drone's camera frame, frowning as they looked at it. One of them reached for it and grabbed it. The image was lost seconds later, but the sound was not. It lasted long enough to hear the crashing sound and what the girl said afterward. It is a close-range one. Send the hounds and the chicks to search the perimeter. Damn it, we need to run, Gloria yelled, and the streaming feed ended. The young man, who was watching the show with a half-empty box of high-quality tissues at his side, didn't move. He was in shock as the screen turned black with a disconnected message. It took him a while to figure out what he just saw. He jumped abruptly from his chair and then ran out of the room. Mom, I found them, he yelled as he headed downstairs. Mom, he kept yelling, quote, ... My sisters. Kya, Michael, you damn pervert, put your damn pants on when you leave your FC King room. Chapter 346, Can It Be Eaten? Alex ran as she looked backward, watching the men and the rabbits follow behind her. She squinted her eyes and nodded. Few had noticed, but the rabbits were a little fewer than before. The young master was right. She told herself. 3 days ago, when she was running for her life after that traitor Zoe escaped by herself. Suddenly out of nowhere, she heard the voice she had been waiting for. That of Victor's. He seemed to have spotted her from afar and called her using a sound-transmitting talisman. It made her a little scared that he would discover her real gender, but when he told her that he was hiding far away from her and could barely make her out, she felt relieved. He told her of a way to save herself and reduce the rabbits around. It was to attack those unfortunate men around her. He told her to focus on the burly dark-skinned ones and to try to kill them with one hit if possible. Not only would that reduce the pressure on her by making the rabbits go to deal with the corpses, it would also make them attack her less so that she would benefit them in the long run. According to him, he planned to end this dungeon in a few days, and she must endure like a man until then. She felt a little angry. She was not racist after all. Why does he want her to kill the dark-skinned men? All men are born equal and deserve to be killed equally. Victor quickly clarified that those guys belonged to the same evil tribe. They were a group who kidnapped and raped women for their bloodline. So, after convincing her and telling her that the communication was about to be cut off because of the distance, he reminded her to be careful before going silent. Alex didn't hesitate and quickly began executing his plan, attacking all the men around her. She didn't want to attack only the dark-skinned ones, fearing that they would call her a racist or gang up on her if they knew she was targeting them, so she randomly attacked a few random guys too, but made sure not to kill them. The plan was a success. The number of rabbits really decreased. But this created a new problem. All the men running around her, seemingly, had all decided that she was a lunatic that needed to be killed. So they began attacking her. And of course, they failed. Those men were too weak to pose any danger to her. The strong ones around had already escaped or been eaten. The last one to attack her was some idiot who fell on her from the top of a tree as if she couldn't notice him. She made sure to kick him with all her strength. Hopefully, the rabbits would eat what's left of him. How dare he sneak attack her? Ellipsis. Victor slowly opened his eyes and looked up at Harper's pretty face, silently observing him. She was giving him a lap pillow. The moment she noticed he woke up, she quickly blushed and looked away in embarrassment. Are you okay now? What happened? She asked after he said nothing for a few minutes and kept looking at her face with amusement. Use the fucking right pronoun. He scolded, ruining the romantic atmosphere that didn't exist in the first place. And yes, this emperor is fine, just feeling a little dizzy, he said, not explaining what happened. Quote. Your disguise is off, you know, she said, a little coldly. I don't know what you are talking about, he said, then shamelessly checked his disguise. He feared that it would have collapsed earlier due to the backlash, but nothing like that happened, it was still on. I have this little skill, you know, it is called true sight. I noticed nothing before, but when you collapsed for a second there, I could see your true identity, Mr. Victor von Weiss, she said coldly, watching his face that was still on her lap changed his expression to that of surprise and annoyance, then relaxed again. It was quick, but she saw it. Quote. You must have been mistaken, he said while cursing silently. This was not in his plan. Probably because of this place's strange conditions or Harper's cyan effect, his disguise must have flickered for a split second when he collapsed, and she must have seen it because of her true sight skill. Was she watching him this closely? Ah, it was all his fault for being so charming. Although your hair is now a different color, not purple, I know it was you. I saw your photo in the recent von Weiss annual report, she said. So, stop lying. Quote. He just glared at her. Damn it, he really didn't want her to realize his true identity. Cyans were too fickle and hard to control. Knowing his true identity would put him on her radar. You must have been looking at my photo a lot recently, he finally said, deciding to come clean, not too clean. Regardless, she blushed. She was just cursing at it. The true thing was way more handsome than the photo though. Why didn't you tell me? She coldly asked as she watched him ponder on some stupid things. Tell you what? He asked, feeling a little annoyed. Your true identity. You could just tell me when you saved me there, she asked. Quote. He thought for a moment, then sighed. For a few reasons, but mainly it was because I didn't know you were my fiancé, he said. In fact, my father did tell me that he had some brides for me a while back, but I never heard of you before, he said, shrugging his shoulders. Ouch, that hurts, she said. She had been running for over a month and it turned out the other party didn't even think about her. Why didn't you tell me then after I informed you about me? She asked, feeling a little salty. Ah, well, I did consider telling you that first night, but I didn't do that to protect you. He lied. At your current level, being near me is very dangerous, he lied again. She was a damn cyan. Protect me from what? She asked. My enemies. I have a lot of them. If you were my wife, they would use you against me, he said. You already have a lot of wives, she said coldly. Don't you want to protect them too? She asked sarcastically. You are special. My current wives fall into two categories, he said, clearing his throat. Most of them were my maids whom I married to protect. If something were to happen to me, I wanted them to have the status of a wife. He said, telling the truth for once. The others were forced on me by my family. I was forced just like you were, but as a man, I couldn't just escape my responsibilities. He said, gaslighting the poor girl. Ah, then, why did you propose to me earlier after that? She asked, feeling that he was playing with her but she couldn't refute him. Did you decide that I no longer need your protection? She asked. No, he hesitated. Well, after staying a few days with you, somehow I began to feel that we are both compatible, just a little bit. Hugging you made me feel very safe, he said, looking away as if he was a little embarrassed to admit his feelings. I just couldn't handle the idea that you would fall for another man if I just let you go. You are mine, he said, blushing a little. The overbearing CEO act must have such moments of showing weakness. Ah, who said I am yours? She asked, feeling a little shy. I did. The more I stay with you, the more I am sure of it, he said, looking at her eyes firmly, making her blush and look away. This was a mistake. Now it was his time to counterattack. I never agreed to this arrangement, she complained, then stopped as she felt his lips touch hers. She wanted to back off or push him away, but as she was sitting on the ground, she had no way out as he pushed his body against hers, pushing her to the ground. The kiss really took a long time. Longer than the previous one. There were no other kids around after all. She didn't know how it happened, but by the end of it, her hands were hugging his head hard, and her legs were already around his waist. He had to struggle a little to let go of her. The girl was about to suffocate without realizing it after all. Damn, his bloodline had become really scary. You taste great, he said as he tickled her, forcing her to retract her hand quickly to push his claws that crawled from under her very short maid skirt at some point. Ah, she blushed as she backed off a little, after realizing what she was doing. Maybe I should order my men to create a perfume using your scent, he continued his monologue, totally ignoring her. Shut up, she scolded with a blush after she pushed his dirty hand away, then began to gasp for breath before wiping her lip with her sleeve. Now give me that fruit, she said, blushing like a tomato. She just wanted to leave this damn place. She was not going to surrender this easily. She had dreams and she was not ready to let go of them for a man. Not yet, he shook his head. If you leave now, you will only have to wait, as the battle stage will not start for another 2 days when enough participants have crossed this stage. He explained. What do you want then? She asked, covering her chest with her hands. To train you. With your current skills, you would be in trouble sooner or later, and this is not a fine thing for my wife. So for the next 2 days, you will go through a fighting crash course, designed by this emperor. It had already been tried and proved a success. He said. Stop using that stupid pronoun. She scolded. And I am not your wife yet. She spat. We will see about that, he said with a bright smile. Ellipsis. Levi squinted his eyes as he looked at the glass tank that was emptied and now was getting lifted. The incubation period was over. Rita, who was suspended there for the last few weeks, slowly descended to the ground, moving slowly as if she was still getting used to her new body. Welcome to the world of humans. Great Tricenter, Levi said to the demon as he presented her with a red ominous-looking pill that she quickly grabbed and ate. Slowly, her corpse-like appearance began to change into that of a pretty young lady. If not for her jittery movement, no one could tell that she was now a corpse possessed by a demon. Although Rita's body was not technically dead, it was injected with so much corpse energy that it was too damaged. That's why they had to pay a great price to get this body repair pill for her. The plan can't fail. Looking at her, Levi began to regret his decision to sacrifice her a little. Somehow after the incubation, she became a little sharper, and more pretty than her older self. Damn it, your body's name is Rita von Weiss, Levi said, giving the demon a stack of documents explaining Rita's life. Demons who possess others can naturally inherit their life skills like knowledge and habits, but they lack the memory of the body's original owner. Quote. Rita nodded, taking the document while keeping her piercing ominous eyes on Levi, making him feel a little unsettled. This demon ghost was a high-ranking one, and those were usually very annoying to deal with. He reminded himself to be very careful. The plan had been changed a little, so you will have had to stay with us a little longer, Levi said. First, the birthday party was cancelled, and then their top men kept getting killed one by one. They no longer had the power to swallow the von Weiss alone, so they chose to play it a different way. As long as you abide by the contract, Rita said in a hoarse and strained voice as she looked around at the scientists who stood at a distance. It was as if she was looking at some kind of food. Of course, Levi said, with a forced smile. Now my men will guide you to your room where you can relax and review the relevant information. Quote. Rita nodded, then began to follow one of the guards who politely invited her. By any chance do you have any idea about a bloody moon in the sky? Levi suddenly asked as Rita reached the door. Blood moon. Rita looked back at Levi with a blank expression. Can it be eaten? She asked. Quote. Not really, Levi responded. Then this seat does not know, she answered disdainfully. Chapter 347, to the next level. So, where is Victor? Elena asked in a very stern mother-in-law voice. Having an org, he is partying somewhere, Margaret corrected herself nervously. He should return in a week or so, maybe with a new wife or two, she added in a very low voice. She had long noticed that Victor had the tendency to get a few new girls whenever he went out. And he took only Lily and Lynn with him. Yes, I wanted to go too, but he didn't agree, Margaret explained. What about that girl Elise? Elena asked, remembering the girl in the wheelchair from the wedding. She never had the chance to talk to her. Ah, Victor sent her to some secret doctor in the mountains saying that he might be able to cure her, she should return in a month or two. Margaret lied with a straight face. Elise was at the factory base overseeing the construction there. They wanted to hide the fact that she was cured until they get a good explanation for that. I see, Elena nodded as she looked below. She was sitting on Victor's mansion balcony, enjoying a cup of high-quality tea and watching the little girls in maid clothes below do their morning martial arts training routine. Lara and Elle who came with her seemed to have joined them willingly, making the atmosphere lively. They looked strangely cute as they practiced the kicking and boxing movements in an orderly fashion. When she first married Theodore after giving birth to Alice, she was surprised by how much his family emphasized martial arts training, but after a while, she realized that this was a good thing as she began to train lightly too. She had to, or she would have never been able to survive Theodore von Wiese's night activities. She sighed, shook her head, then turned and looked at her son's wives who sat around her shyly. She had to confess, her son, despite having the same perverted tendencies as his father, had some good taste in women. All of those girls, except for Margaret, were very good. Not only were they pretty, but they were also polite and had a really nice nature, except for Margaret, that is. If only her husband could hold his wives to the same standards instead of sleeping with any nasty hoe who manages to throw herself at him, well, at least Luna is fine. Elena really liked her like a little sister. Mira, I heard that Victor decided to entrust the idol group he is creating to you. Elena finally asked. Mira nodded. Monica and I are the ones responsible for it. I don't have much time after all because of the movie shoots, she said, as Monica, who was beside her, nodded. Oh, good, Elena nodded. Now, let me ask you this, whose idea was this song about the train? She asked the question she wanted to ask. 2 days ago, she watched a report on TV talking about the new leaked songs that the new idol group by Horizons Media was meant to sing, her little daughter was meant to sing. Ah, it was Victor's, Mira answered nervously. Cancel it, Elena said flatly. But, remove the damn song from the program. Elena said, my daughter will not sing such a thing, and remove the other slut song too, it is not appropriate for an idol band composed of little girls. She said, the slut song she meant went like this. I am your slut, so fear me not, I'll hold your hands, to a new world, I am so hot, especially the butt, follow this one, if you can afford. Mira didn't know how to answer. She too felt the songs were a little inappropriate, but she would follow whatever Victor told her to do. Don't worry, Margaret interjected, those songs were meant as a joke, a publicity stunt. They were meant to be leaked and drive the public's curiosity. In fact, we already have a more appropriate and refined version for the girls. Margaret explained, taking a notebook from her storage ring behind her back and then giving it to Elena. Making both Monica and Mira, who had no idea about this, run to their mother-in-law's side to read the real songs. Oh, that makes sense now. Elena sighed in relief. The real song is not about riding the young master's train, but the love train. The slut turned into a cat. The ideas were the same, but the concept can be interpreted in a more appropriate way like all songs. Why did you make us train on the alternative version? Monica suddenly asked Margaret hatefully. Simple, because I wanted the test records to leak. I wanted to create publicity, she said. You were the one who leaked those? Monica asked. Yup, people now will be waiting for the real thing to be sung by the lowly idol group. One of the songs will also be in the new movie. Margaret said. Oh, this might just work. Arya, who was taking a day off to stay with her mother-in-law, nodded. Although this method of publicity is too depraved for her taste, it is standard in the media world. But you should have told us, she added to Margaret. That would not be fun, Margaret said, then quickly went silent as she noticed that Elena was really glaring at her, and so were the girls, only Victor shared her sense of humor. I see, Elena finally said after she went through the entire songbook. These songs were very good. She kinda understood Victor's plan as she was in the media circle long ago, and had an idea how sex sells, she could only sigh. In a way, Elena was thankful that Victor managed to convince her husband to accept Lara joining an idol group. She always wanted one of her daughters to achieve her childhood dreams, but Alice was a lost cause, and Theodore was overprotective of Lara after his niece messed up a few years ago. Elena was now pinning all her hopes on Lara, who resembled her in more than one way. Bang! A sudden sound of something crashing alerted Elena and the girls, making them look downward. Lara seemed to have been demonstrating some martial art to the little maids, and she struck a garden lamp post by mistake, breaking it into two. Lara was standing next to it, not knowing what to do as she was surrounded by shocked girls. Oh, this old thing finally broke, he, Margaret said dryly as she sweated a little and looked at Elena. It was struck by lightning in that storm a few weeks ago. Oh, the same thing happened to a tree in the mansion we live in. Theodore scolded Gardner heavily after it fell while Lara was playing near it. You should really take care of such things. What if someone got hurt? You must make Victor really take responsibility as a homeowner. Elena sighed and said after making sure that Lara was fine. We will tell him. The girls nodded and said as they looked at each other and then at Lara, who had just become the little maid's idol. Ellipsis. Harper was swinging her sword hard according to Victor's training method when she heard his voice. Now, it is time for us to move to the next level, Victor said suddenly as he closed the diary he had been writing. Already? Yes, I know you are enjoying the company of your husband, but we have important things to do. Victor said, you are not my husband yet. Harper spat back as she put the sword down and turned to face him. For the last 2 days she had been training with him, and although she was reluctant at first, she quickly discovered that the martial arts he taught her were not ordinary at all. For the last 2 days, she had discovered a lot about Victor. Although he was as shameless as the rumors said, he was not that bad. On the contrary, other than a few passionate kissing sessions in the sleeping bag, he kept his word not to do anything perverted, mostly. He seemed to like to spank her butt each time she made a mistake. She had a hunch that this perverted bravado of his was an act, just like the Emperor act he pulled earlier. And it was a genius disguise to hide his true power. If she acted as a pervert from the start, her father would have never been able to marry her off. Too bad, she could never be this shameless. And that is the problem, your father will definitely find you when you leave here, and he will either marry me or some other pervert young master. Victor said, didn't you say earlier that you had a way to make me a player when this dungeon ends? She asked, if I am a player my father would never try to marry me off. She said, you are mistaken. He shook his head, your family is too weak right now, they will sell you off regardless. But demand a higher price this time, Victor explained. Oh, what do you want me to do then? She asked as she caught the towel he threw her and began to wipe the sweat off her face. It smelled like wine. You have 2 choices, he said, squinting his eyes with a smile that made him look very charming. What? She asked. The first is to obediently marry me and enter my harem as soon as we return. No way, she refused. You promised that you will give me a few years. She said, do you have anything better to do other than marrying me? He asked. This is private business. She spat. Although she was not disgusted with Victor anymore, and even began to feel a little attracted to him, she was not ready to commit herself to another. A long time ago she made a promise, and she would never break it, she would never betray Iliad. Oh, Victor squinted his eyes as he looked at her. For a second she had the feeling that he could tell what she was thinking. No, that's impossible. Then the second choice, he said slowly. Join the heavenly sect. Ah, she was shocked. Did he know that Iliad was in the heavenly sect? No, it must be a coincidence. What? He asked as he frowned, carefully inspecting her face. Nothing. I wanted to join them before when I planned to run away, but it is not that easy, she said. I don't even know where it is, and I heard they only accepted exceptional players. She confessed half of the truth. Oh, he said, then went silent and looked at her strangely as if waiting for something. What? She asked, feeling guilty. No, I am not Victor's wife yet, she reminded herself. I already put the instructions of how to reach the heavenly sect in the storage ring I gave you, he finally sighed and said. And I will even arrange for someone to help you there. In that place, you will get the chance to become very powerful, and your family would not be able to sell you off. Really? Can you do that? She asked. Yes, but I need you to promise me something, he said. What? You will never get in a relationship with another guy before we make things clear between us, not even Iliad. He finally said. Ah, she shrieked, so you knew? She yelled in shock. No, you just told me, he said. You talk a lot in your sleep, he lied. Ah, she was shocked. He fooled her. Since when do you know that guy? He asked, not appearing angry. You need to tell the truth, you owe me this much. He said, looking at her with complex eyes. I met him 5 years ago. He saved my life from a kidnapper when I was on vacation with my parents. Harper said nervously. Typical, he said in a low voice, and? He asked slowly. He made me promise to marry him when he comes back to get me, she said as she looked away, not knowing why she was telling Victor this. He is in the heavenly sect? He asked. Some elder there took him as an apprentice. He left me a letter telling me where he went. I didn't understand it until I became a semi-player though. He was already a player? Victor asked after some silence in which he appeared as if he was talking to himself. But I was engaged to you before you made that promise, Victor finally said. She didn't know how to answer that. I owe him my life, she said. You also owe me one, Victor answered as he approached her. She expected another kiss, but it never came as steeped away, and sighed. Fine, I will leave this choice to you, he finally said. Eat this and go to the next level. Take care of your safety, he added as he looked away, seemingly hurt a little. Sorry, she said as she caught the fruit. You don't need to be, when the times come you will know who cares for you more. He said, now go, and don't forget to prepare your shield and sword. She nodded, grabbing the already prepared bag before biting in the fruit. She felt ashamed of her behavior. Victor was a real gentleman. She wanted to apologize again but the hurt look on his face stopped her. That was the last thing she saw when the world shifted. The next moment when she opened her eyes, she found herself in a huge cage surrounded by other cages. Welcome to the 3rd level. The battleground. Kill 10 people or survive for 10 days to cross to the next level. The more you kill the stronger you will become. Greatness is just steps away. Harper squinted her eyes. How did Victor know? She wondered just as the next message appeared. Warning. The doors will open, and the battle will start in 3 hours. Chapter 348, Bastions. Well, I guess that's it, Lily said after she watched Rain, who was wrapped in bandages like a mummy, eat his fruit with some help from Ray. Then followed quickly after he vanished, not forgetting to bow to Lynn and Lily before leaving. She was really thankful for their help these past few days. They even promised to meet outside if they got a chance. Alex kicked Rain really hard. Thankfully he landed on that tree that absorbed most of the shock for him, Lynn said. Will he be okay at the next level? Lynn didn't like Lily before considering her a love rival, but after spending some time with her here, although she still didn't like her, she began to really respect her like a big sister who knew everything. Lily was also a person you really don't want to mess up with. This girl has something against men having crotches. Did you start having feelings for him? Lily asked with a knowing smile. Never. I only like Victor, Lynn quickly clarified. It is just, despite his foul mouth, I think he is a decent guy. It would be a shame if he got hurt on the next level. Quote. Lily sighed. Don't worry about him, for the same reason that makes you like him is the reason he will survive this place, she clarified. What, is there something fishy going on here? Lynn asked as she frowned. He is a scion, Lily shrugged. What? Lynn opened her mouth wide. Victor did mention this to her before entering this place, warning her to be wary of scions. Damn it, she said. She almost fell for him. Don't worry about it, by knowing about him being a scion. His effect on you would be greatly diminished. Just make sure to make him hate you the next time you meet. Oh, Lynn nodded. Why didn't you or Victor warn me about him before? She said, sulking. We wanted you to experience this strange effect by yourself so that you would be wary the next time such things happen. Lily said. Oh, then that Ray girl is a scion too? Lynn asked. She felt some strange attraction toward her. Yes, and Victor seems to plan to add her to his harem, Lily spat angrily, totally unaware of her companion's thoughts. Oh, then is it safe to leave her with Rain? Lynn frowned. Shouldn't we have done something against him? Never underestimate a scion's power, Lily shook her head with a smile. And Rain will have other things to worry about very soon. You did something to him, didn't you? Lynn asked. Quote. Who knows, Lily shrugged. Now come on, eat your fruit. Victor is waiting, she added as she bit on her apple in a hurry. She needed to find Victor quickly. Men like him must not be trusted to be left alone without supervision. Lynn frowned, looked at her then quickly followed, eating her own apple. Moments later both vanished as the system displayed a level completion notification with some stupid encouraging words. The world wrapped around them and the next thing they saw was the face of their husband who was smiling as he sat on his signature comfy camping chair while writing on his notebook. Both of them couldn't help but jump into his embrace without even affirming their surroundings, knocking Victor and his chair to the ground as they burrowed their faces into his chest. I missed you too, he told them as he hugged them back. I expected that you, ouch. He paused. Lily was biting his arm. Don't eat your husband, he exclaimed. Bastard, were you messing around with my sister? She asked before biting harder. She could smell Tulip's scent all over his body. There was the scent of another girl too, but Tulip was the one she noticed. Ouch, take it easy. He exclaimed as he held Lily at bay. I didn't expect to meet her here. She was in a very disadvantageous situation, so as any noble young man I had to take advantage of that. He clarified. What advantage? Lily spat. I figured that I would use the opportunity to beat some sense into her and maybe educate her out of her stupid pride. He said as he pushed the now rabid Lily away with the help of Lynn. Does that include sleeping with her? Lily asked, squinting her pretty eyes as she looked at him. Education takes many forms, he said as he jumped to his feet and stepped back. Then let's see how I educate you. Lily spat hatefully as she also stood up and prepared to attack him again. I also gave her the cure for your mother's poison, he added, making Lily pause. She will be skeptical, she said, calming down a little as Lin, who was curious, looked between the two. She just needs to recognize the symptoms, she is a smart girl. Victor said. True, then I will forgive you for this once. Lily said, pouting. Good, we have better things to do now. He chuckled, making both of the girls look at their surroundings. Where is this anyway? Lily finally asked, looking around. They were on a large ledge protruding from a solid copper dome near its top. Below it, it oversaw a grand field that had many cages scattered around with people inside of them. This is the third level, Victor said. And why are we up here and not with the others? Lin asked as she slowly approached Victor and stood beside him, making her body touch his intimately as she looked at the people down below. I took you out of the game. He smiled and said, I was able to take control of this entire place thanks to a lucky coincidence. He said, what do you mean? Lily asked, squinting her eyes as she also hurried to his side. She was still angry, but she also missed him. I already told you that this place was not a dungeon, Victor said. It is an X-ranked artifact called the Three Rings Merging Cauldron, and we are inside of it. What? Both of the girls asked as they began to look around. What does it do? Lin said curiously as Victor secretly moved his hand around her back indecently from behind. Like the cauldrons that ancient alchemists used, it is for processing materials. It takes people in, then extracts their soul energy, attributes, bodies, and bloodlines before inputting those into someone else, he explained. Then, this place is basically a trap? Lin asked. Exactly. Victor nodded. Who was behind it? Lily asked as she looked at the players down below. Demons. Those rabbits you saw before are all possessed by demons. There are about 1,000 of them, not counting the hibernating demon souls laying dormant in the blood chamber. Victor said solemnly. Hiss. Lily gasped. This is a bastion, she exclaimed. Exactly. Victor nodded. They are collecting players, planning to choose suitable ones, and take over their bodies to re-enter the world. Victor said, this operation must have been very old, as many of the players here belong to tribes whose raison d'etre is to create better offspring before making them enter the cauldron. Those dark-skinned men, among others, I counted 5 different groups who all seem to worship a mythical red moon god. They think they are here to prove themselves. He said, most of them are to be used as fuel in the cauldron and fill the blood chamber. Shit, Lily said. They choose the best ones then cook and eat the rest to make them more powerful. Exactly. No wonder, she added as she remembered how many of the people who entered the moon dungeon in her past life ended up being very powerful, possessing strong bloodlines and attributes that made them easily overpower others of the same age. They were highly regarded by the powers they world for. Although they didn't make any moves until the time Victor returned in time, most of them rose to hold important positions, so it was only a matter of time. Those bastards must have been preparing for a second wave of invasion. What is a bastion? Lin, who was listening to their conversation, asked. Oh, a bastion is basically a hideout for demons who were stuck into this world after the ancient war, Lily explained as a big sister would. There are many of them, hidden all over the world. Most of the low-level demons are already dead, but their souls live on, waiting for suitable bodies to possess and leave. What ancient war? Lin asked, wondering how Lily could know of these things. She had never heard of them despite coming from one of the major families. Well, I guess we have time to tell you about this. Victor said, taking the role of a storyteller. Long time ago, at a time long forgotten by history, there was an incident that caused a breach to open in this world's walls. It allowed others from the outside to come in and humans could go out. Oh, at first no one noticed. But with time some visitors managed to cross here and then carry the news back to their world. They were the worst kind of creatures you want to encounter, demons. He said, it didn't take them a lot of time to launch an invasion wanting to enslave the entire world. Victor said, acting all wise. Humans fought back, Lin asked excitedly. Nope, they were nearly wiped out. However, eventually, thanks to the demons beginning to fight each other for dominance, some surviving human groups managed to escape this world and strike some kind of a deal with the other races outside, so that they would send help. He said, in the following years, many great warriors entered this world. Not only to destroy the demons who were the enemy of all the other races but to bring in with them the artifacts that enabled humans to become players and fight back. Although the Thesis race's intentions were far from pure, the humans had no other choice. They won? Lin asked. Of course not, Lily said. The demons were too overpowered as they arrived here first. They seemed to have already anticipated the attack and bonded together to fight it off. And the other races were not that serious, only sending their younglings and some old tech. So after years of struggle, millions of lives, and the destruction of all civilization, the war stood at a standstill. She said. Then something that no one thought about happened. The many souls of the dead seemed to have accumulated enough energy for the world to gain a will, becoming a mature world. When the world opened its eyes for the first time, the first thing it did was close its wounds and then begin to eliminate all foreign elements. Lily shrugged. Those guys never knew what hit them. Most of them died as their luck and destiny turned against them. The troublesome ones that the world couldn't hurt were locked into dungeons. Lily said, then turned to Victor, who continued. The only survivors were those who found a place or a way to hide from the world fast enough. This didn't include just the demons but the other races too. Victor said. In fact, most of the player family's originators belong to those allies who came into those otherworldly races and married some human. What? Lin was shocked. It is true, they lived their lives inside sealed chambers, not daring to come out. Lily nodded. Victor's ancestor was a half-dragon called Nicholas, while yours was a humanoid horned serpent called Matilda, she added. Then this bastion is a demon hideout place? Lin asked, half believing. Her ancestor's name was lost to history. Her family only knew that it started with an M thanks to an engraved monument. Yes, Victor nodded. The ones here must have used this cauldron in a hurry to hide. If my guess is correct, every 100 years or so, they open the gates locally to get some demons out to sniff the situation outside and prepare for a new invasion. This time the gate opened globally, Lily said. Yes, someone must accidentally found their bastion's location and blew the cover, Victor said. Rain and Ray. Yup, he nodded. He heard the story through Lin. So what is happening now? Lin asked nervously. The second stage is about to finish with only about 20 players left. They should all get killed or pass here in the next hour. Then, this battlefield. Exactly. They will start the massacre here. Like the flame in a cauldron, it is a stage to melt the ingredients. It is made to prepare the contestant to be possessed by, making them draw on their souls for power, damaging it. He said. The demons you see are already using the cauldron to collect the attributes and blood of the dead ones and collecting it in a chamber below in preparation for the possession that would happen after this stage. Victor said. They plan to enhance the ones they choose to possess by using the others as sacrifices. Lily explained. Yup, they will probably use the blood they collected after that on the survivors to give them a bloodbath as a reward and then infiltrate their bodies as they enjoyed the enhancement of their bloodlines. He added with a smile. The strongest will probably get to bathe in the grandest blood pond. Scions tend to fall into such traps, especially when you make them work for it. That's despicable, Lin said, totally unaware that Victor used this reward trick on Tom before. Yup, Victor nodded shamelessly as Lily glared at him. After finishing they will send a batch out, to spread the news and prepare for a new batch to come in the next month. They will also send some useless corpses out, to convince the outsiders of the legitimacy of this trial. A full cycle, Lily said, realizing how dangerous demons were. The Imperial family had no idea about this in Victor's old timeline. Then what to do? Lin asked. Nothing for now. I already said it, we are safe. This entire place is under my control now. You took control of the artifact? Lily asked. Yeah, I fed some of my blood to a rabbit intending to take control of him, but that thing took the blood and dumped it inside the cauldron's blood chamber. He said. The next thing I knew was that the message asking me if I wanted to take ownership of this cauldron. Maybe I fulfilled some stupid condition or my blood slave skill triggered some bug. Who knows, he lied. Wow, Lin said. That's convenient, Lily added, frowning. Despite the fact that his explanation was somewhat plausible, her hunch was telling her that Victor was hiding something. She has known him long enough to realize that. Are you planning to use the cauldron's power to consume all the demons? Lily asked as Lin's eye sparkled looking at Victor. Yes. In fact, I already tried it by making Alex kill some players so the rabbits would eat them, and the moment the rabbits vanished using the cauldron's teleportation array, I used the cauldron's consume feature on them, eating them stealthy without making the other notice. The ones in the forest would think their friends are gone to the blood pool, while the rest would think that they are in the forest. He said with a smile. I already leveled up 2 times thanks to them. Wow, why aren't you finishing with this then? Lin asked. What are you waiting for? Well, he chuckled. It would be regrettable to waste such a perfect opportunity to gain big. You want most of these people down there to die? Lin asked, raising one eyebrow. She was not disturbed, just curious. Not exactly, the ones meant to die are already dead, Victor shook his head. You see, most of the people here had already eaten the fruits, and the more they fight right now the more they will draw on their souls, making their souls weaker and giving the demons a better chance to possess them after the battle is over. He said. You want the demons to possess them? Lin asked. Nope, I am just saying that most of them are in a very susceptible position right now for some brainwashing, he said with an evil smile. Also, after taking control of this place I discovered many very interesting things. You guys just need to sit down and watch this emperor work. How long until the show starts? Lily asked. About an hour and a half maybe, he said with a wary smile as he felt his wives' arms wrap around him. They really missed him. Chapter 349, Play Along. Zoe took a deep breath as the strange cage that surrounded her shimmered once then slowly vanished, leaving her in the open sand-covered featureless battlefield. She watched around as the scattered players around the large fields also held their weapons as they inspected their surroundings. There were about 1,000 of them. Most of them were also looking around warily, not sure what to do, while others began to form groups. Zoe tried to search for Victor or anyone she knew, but found none, not even that jinx Alex. There were simply too many players around. She squeezed her fingers around the handle of her sword as suddenly the system displayed a screen. Battle start. Kills 0. Glory is only 10 kills away. Moments later she heard a voice, making her turn to look. Unua Sengo Estas Mia. One braided man screamed, then ran and attacked a pretty teenage girl who had a strange tattoo all over her body. She was the nearest to him. In a split second, the man's headless body fell seconds later before the girl, who was now holding a strange invisible blade that appeared out of nowhere, grabbed the decapitated ugly head then threw it in the air. She jumped and kicked it right at the man's friends, who watched in shock as the hero of their tribe was humiliated. The head hit one of them in the chest, sending him to the ground. First blood. 100 additional points. The system screen displayed, further agitating the bloodthirsty men. More to. They screamed angrily and then attacked the girl who was waiting for them to do that. Then the battle began. Zoe, who was watching the exchange, could only see that she had to quickly use her sword to defend herself as 3 men tried to sneak attack her together from the back. Those men had strange very white skin and red hair. They look ominous with strange brands engraved on their foreheads. They were holding swords made of sharp bones that Zoe could tell that they were poisoned from the dark stains on their sides. Thankfully, their level was way below hers, so she didn't take a lot of time to kill 2 of them and injure the last one, making him escape. She frowned as she watched the corpses of those men she killed sink into the sand and suddenly felt that strange energy began to flow through her body. She could tell that it came from those men as she watched her attributes slowly climb up in her status window. She got stronger, but that didn't make her glad at all. The others around her were getting stronger too, and now they had the incentive to kill more. She was right. A few minutes later, the battle began to be more deadly as those players who managed to kill someone realized what they needed to do to get stronger. They liked this feeling, and it made them addicted. Shit, Zoe cursed as she fought. She didn't like it at all. Killing others to take their power was not her style. So she only attacked those who attacked her first. After 1 hour about 500 players were left, and after Zoe killed the 7th attacker, she knew that the end must be near. Looking around after finishing a poor man who thought she was an easy target, she could see all kinds of battles around. There was even a fat man using a huge wooden shield to fend off his enemies as he ran away shamelessly. That wooden board looked familiar somehow, but she couldn't remember where she saw it. Then it happened. Zoe felt something pierce her neck. Looking back, she watched as a short man used a blowpipe to shoot a dart at her. Damn, she got overconfident and made a mistake, being careless on a battlefield. She wanted to attack him, but moments later she felt her body become weightless and she fell to the ground and the man approached her with a black dagger. She felt helpless, expecting the man to slit her throat, but he didn't. He just knelt beside her body, activated some kind of talisman, then took a strange small jar that was tied to his belt and used the dagger to unseal it near her. He acted very quickly. Moments later she could feel that something entered her body through her nostrils as the sand surrounded her. She began falling into darkness. Something was invading her mind. She knew it hurt like hell. She screamed. She had no idea how long it was, but seconds later it all stopped. She opened her eyes and looked around. She was not dead. She was not even in the field. She was in a metallic domed chamber barely illuminated by dimly glowing stones around the walls. Around her, there were about 30 collapsed players who began to wake up one by one and look around. "Where is this?" a handsome guy with blonde hair asked as he sat up. "What happened?" No one answered. They were all wondering about the same thing. Some of those players began to touch their necks while others checked their wounds that were now healed. "Are we dead?" a girl asked as she stood up. "I was stabbed by some guy," she said, checking her body. "We are alive, we should have been dead," a tattooed girl answered, biting her cherry lip. She was the same one Zoe saw before fighting valiantly. "Yet we aren't," she added as she touched her neck while inspecting her surroundings. Many nodded. "Our powers as players are sealed," one player suddenly exclaimed from the side. She was trying to use an illumination skill, but she failed. "What?" the other players exclaimed and began to try activating their skills to no avail. "What's going on?" another asked. "Is this a part of the trial?" "Probably not. We wouldn't be the only ones here if it was." The tattooed girl squinted her eyes looking around, then opened them wide. "Someone had intervened," she said, looking at one side of the chamber. "May I ask if you are the one who brought us here?" she asked, making all the players quickly turn and look to the side where slowly out of the copper wall, a handsome young man suddenly materialized. He had some very regal air around him, dressed in white silk. Despite that, Zoe could tell by the way he moved that somehow he looked like a lousy singer in a bar who just finished screwing around with the waitress when it was his turn to sing. He also had a very familiar air around him. "Who are you?" the blonde man asked with hostility. The young man ignored him as he looked at the tattooed girl with interest. "You guessed right," he said, then turned and looked at the other players, pausing briefly on Zoe. "This Imperial one's name is Vic Volt, and this Emperor is the one who saved your lives," he said. "What do you mean?" one player asked. "Do you know what this place is?" Vic smiled and replied with a question. "A trial," the blonde man answered, but Vic ignored him, looking at the tattooed girl. "A demon bastion," she answered carefully. "Exactly, you are not stupid after all," he said. "It was a well-crafted trap to take in humans to possess them and send them back into the outside world as demons," Vic said. "What?" Zoe exclaimed as she remembered the demon's murals in the skeleton dungeon. There was something like this there. "Let this Emperor explain how this place was meant to work," Vic said. "The people who entered this dungeon were measured right after entering using the stairs. The useless ones, about 60%, were killed and harvested in the forest by the rabbits, while the rest were made to eat the fruits that damage your souls to be ready to be possessed," he said. "This means that all of those on the battlefield were already chosen to be possessed?" the tattooed girl asked. "Exactly. Most were meant to fall at some point. In fact, 5% of the enemies there are both illusionary and naturally undefeatable. They are meant to choose those who were tired enough and extract them. Only the strongest players will really stay to the end like a hard-to-cook ingredient. But they too will be utterly exhausted and ready to be possessed by that time." He shrugged. "The battlefield was just an extra step to tire your souls to the limit by making you unconsciously consume it. Each time you killed someone or were about to die, you felt a huge increase of energy, right?" "Yes. Wasn't this us gaining the power of the dead ones?" the blonde man asked, feeling skeptical. "No, this is you consuming your own soul." Vic shook his head. "Whenever a man kills another or falls into mortal danger, there would be a slight disturbance in his own soul, like a shockwave. This is usually harmless, but if the soul is damaged, some of it will liquefy, converting it to energy and making you stronger." "HSSSSSs." Zoe gasped. "Don't worry, although it would take a few years, the damage to your souls can be repaired with the right arts and some pills." He said such things as if soul-fixing drugs and art were trivial. "It is just that the outer layer that formed the protection shield is the first to be exhausted." "Then what happened to the dead bodies?" the tattooed girl asked. "What should have happened to us?" "The ones who really died, like the man you decapitated, got processed by the rabbits to enter the blood pool, but most of the people in the field are like you, they just collapsed and got absorbed by the sand. They were not dead," Vic said. "They would be transferred to another chamber where they would be submerged into a blood pool, telling them that they survived the trial and that this was their reward. That bath would really make them stronger, but in it, a myriad of demon souls are hiding. They will infiltrate the players' bodies as they absorb the blood and devour their damaged souls, then possess them." "Ah." The players looked at each other, not sure what to think. "Then what about those men with black jars?" Zoe suddenly asked, making some players frown while others who were attacked by them nodded. "They are demons belonging to a different faction. They must have sneaked in here to grab the trophies under the noses of the ones controlling this place. Vic explained. The jars contained demon souls that were supposed to enter your body and lay dormant until the ones from this place try to devour your souls and then attack them from the back, he added. They are inside of us now? Zoe asked nervously, touching her neck. No, you don't need to worry. The moment those souls exited the jars, this emperor used this dungeon's powers to neutralize them and turned them into energy to feed your souls, fixing it and making it stronger. He clarified. You can control this place? The tattooed girl asked, squinting her eyes nervously. Is that how you pulled us away? She added. Yup. He nodded, shooting her a fleeting glance. Why only us? She asked. What is your plan? This emperor couldn't grab a lot of players, else it might alert the ones controlling this place yet. He said. And this emperor is not doing charity here. For saving you, you must pay a price. And what if we refuse to pay? The blonde young man asked arrogantly. You will die, Vic said flatly, making the player look at each other. Your lives are already mine, and even if you are the heir of a kingdom, I won't care. He added. So you knew our identity? The blonde man said. Why else would you be chosen? This emperor does not need useless puppets. Vic said. What do you want in exchange? The tattooed girl asked, squinting her eyes. She was wondering if Vic knew her true identity. I save your souls and lives, and in exchange, you must give me absolute obedience for the rest of your lives. He said, making a shimmering contract appear in front of the players. They froze as they read it. This is stupid, the blonde man said. Is your life stupid? Vic asked with a frown. No, fuck you. Do you think I am an idiot? He didn't continue as he was decapitated seconds later by Vic, who appeared out of thin air right behind him and then cut his head. It took merry seconds. The girls gasped in shock as Vic returned his sword to his scabbard. You can always refuse, but this emperor will reclaim what is his, he said. Now hurry up, this emperor needs to send you back before the demons realize that happened. It would be a waste if you missed the blood pool's nourishment. He said. These conditions are a little too overbearing. One player who read the contract said slowly. If they agreed to this, they would become his slaves. He would be able to make them do whatever he wants. Most of the guys here belong to some really strong powers. Stupid or not, you have about 5 minutes to decide. The next stage will start soon and I need to send you back before the demons notice anything funny. He said, looking at the cheap-looking golden watch on his wrist that Zoe recognized. This bastard was definitely Victor. This watch was the one he wore in front of her while telling her that artifacts don't work right before entering here. She almost gasped and looked at the contract in front of her. It was empty with just a few words. Play along cuz. Chapter 350. So quickly. That was the last batch, Victor said as soon as he returned to his temporary base and handed Lily a list, then collapsed on his foldable chair while Lynn hurried to wipe the sweat off his forehead. I think those are enough for now. He added. Are you sure you want to include some of those tribesmen? Lily asked as she looked at the book to her side and began striking out the names of the ones who refused Victor's offer. I don't like them or their stupid beliefs at all. I didn't include any of them, Victor said. All those men refused my offer, screaming something about the moon god's wrath. Then what about those 3, Fly Opfer, Beetle Opfer and Hornet Opfer? Lily asked. Those are women, tribes women. They disguised themselves as men and entered this dungeon in an attempt to escape their miserable lives. He said, feeling a little sorry for the girls who grew up in a tribe following a demonic doctrine of using women only as breeding material. And they fell into your hands. Lily said, I promised to help them find a better life. Working for you for an eternity. It is a life, and this emperor is not a bad boss. Victor said, I gave them storage rings with money and escape talismans so that they would be able to escape their tribes once they returned. Victor said, regardless, all that is left is the science, Lily said, sighing. Why are all men perverts? I already fixed most of them earlier, and I am not sure if any more is feasible. The only one left is Rain, who I didn't get a chance to play any trick on yet, Victor said. Too bad, that guy is not on the battlefield. The demons had transported him to a cage in the central control chamber. What? Why? Lynn asked in surprise. I already told you. He has a curse that makes demons want to eat him and get stronger. I think they are waiting until they get some new body before devouring him. Victor said. Oh, will he be okay? Lynn asked, making Victor slap her butt. Ah, she exclaimed. I am hurt. My little Lynn is concerned about some other guy. He said. I am not. I am just curious. She pouted as she rubbed her butt. He was getting better at this. He will be fine, Victor said. Someone who has a lord's blessing will not die easily. He explained. What lord's blessing? Lily, who was reviewing the new slaves' names on the documents, turned to him and asked. The Death Lord, Victor said. What? And you are telling me this now? Lily exclaimed as she stood up in shock. Is it important? Perhaps, you know something about him, Victor asked, looking at her warily. He was about to discuss those things before, but the Moon Dungeon's appearance forced him to cut his meeting with the girls short. Lily frowned, looking at Lin, who was watching their exchange curiously before sighing. When I met Rain earlier I didn't recognize him, but now that you told me about his blessing, coupled with him being one of Tulip's companions, I realized his identity. What? Victor asked curiously. Have you perhaps heard of the Deathly Lake incident? She asked as Lin frowned and looked at her. She had the feeling that both of them were hiding something from her. Isn't it where 150 young men from all the prestigious families in the Empire died? Victor asked. What does it have to do with Rain? The guy who killed them, although his identity is a mystery, all evidence points that he used some forbidden death skill to kill everyone there and then ran away. Lily explained. A skill that only those who have the despicable Death Lord's blessing can execute without dying. You believe that guy is Rain? It all fits, Lily said, making Victor frown and then nod. Then we need to be wary around him, Victor said. Did you read Tulip's fate? Was he mentioned? Lily suddenly asked as Lin, who had a million questions, listened carefully. Yup, he and 6 others are meant to marry Tulip, Victor said with a helpless smile, spanking Lin's butt as he spoke. She knew that it meant that he would explain things later. Damn, my sister is a bitch, Lily exclaimed. She must be the one who helped hide him after she ran away. No wonder no one was able to find him. She added to herself. This leaves a very important question, Victor said. Why the fuck is everyone after Tulip? He had to ask. Sure, Tulip was pretty, very pretty. But her personality, especially after the reckoning, was worse than a dog shit stuck to your shoe on a humid day. You mean you don't know? Lily exclaimed. No, he shook his head. Tulip must have a lord's blessing by now, Lily said. Oh, about that, she has the Void Lord's greater blessing. Victor nodded. Rain also has a blessing. Is it important? Isn't it a function to grant the player some of the Giving Lord's skills? It indicates other things depending on its ranking, lesser or greater, Lily said. While a lesser blessing usually means that the blessing receiver is an agent for the Lord or being tested by him, a greater blessing is reserved for special individuals like students of kin, she said. Then, in Tulip's case, Victor asked as Lin, who understood nothing of what they talked about, looked at Lily. The Void Lord is Tulip's master, Lily said directly, and from what I heard, she plans to make Tulip the Lord after her. I think she is very sick for some reason and is about to die. Tulip is her chosen heir. Oh, Victor exclaimed. This explains many things. What is a lord? Lin suddenly asked. Think of it like a very powerful otherworldly overlord, Lily said. They seem to have very little interest in fighting for hegemony, so no one really knows what they are after, but it is usually better not to get involved with them. She said. Oh, Lin frowned, then nodded. Then we have a couple of problems, Victor said. What, did you make Tulip pregnant? Lily asked, sarcastically, earning herself a slap to the butt. Not exactly, I made her my blood slave. What? Lily exclaimed again. I couldn't help it, the chance was there, and if I didn't at least try I would not be able to sleep. He said, I was planning to control her the same way I did with Tom, but I know it is wrong now, so to avoid being discovered I will only use it to monitor her. I will teach you how to sleep, you pervert peeping bastard. Lily attacked Victor intending to bite this sleazy bastard again, but he quickly held it off. He was still stronger than her. You put your blood in her fruit, right? Lin asked slowly as she watched them play with some jealousy. She had to confess, the chemistry between those two was perfect. Yup, he nodded. Then both of you think the same way. Lily also did something to Rain's fruit, Lin explained. What? Victor asked, making Lily, who was futilely shooting Lin some glares to stop talking, quickly stepped back trying to escape, but it was too late. He grabbed her and pulled her on his lap, then slapped her butt. What did you do to him? He asked. Just a little something. She blushed and looked away, earning herself another slap. Ah, what? He asked again, feeling a little jealous. It's a secret. She puffed her cheeks, making Victor frown. It has to do with my family, she added reluctantly. Quote. Victor sighed. Just make sure to be careful, he said as he let go. He knew he couldn't fully control Lily or know all her secrets. But he didn't like that. She said as she stood up before her butt received a third slap. Ah, why? She asked. I felt like it, he said, pouting and making her glare at him then smile after realizing he was jealous. What other problems do we have? She finally asked. Your reaction earlier must have not been only about Tulip. It is about this girl I met earlier. He pointed at a name on the list with an asterisk next to it. Tear Blood King, Lily asked. The name didn't ring any bells. Yup, this girl has the Blood Lord's greater blessing, Victor said in a worried voice. And she entered this place knowing fully well it is a bastion. She must be after something. What? Lily raised one eyebrow. I have a vague idea, but this is within my plan, he said with a nervous smile. He was not really sure, but he had to do this. I might get a very nice lord after my ass after this, he added, making Lily frown as she looked at him worriedly. Ellipsis. Level finished. Tulip sighed in relief as she looked at the field where only 15 players survived. Some of them were either very strong while others had some good luck like Ray and Harper who only managed to survive by staying at her side, and Liam, who had some good defense and used the huge shield given by Vic to protect himself as he ran away, making attacking him a waste of time. Where is that bastard Rain? Tulip asked Ray as she looked around, searching not only for Rain but also for Vic. Both of them were nowhere to be seen. I don't know, he was injured when he entered this place, she said worriedly as Harper who was beside her looked around, searching for Victor to no avail. Do you think something happened to him? Ray asked worriedly. Nah, that guy is still alive, Tulip said. She had secretly left a mark on Rain, so if he died she would know. She was more concerned with Vic. The mark she left on him had disappeared. Could he be dead? No, she needs to kill that bastard with her own hands. Congratulations. Great power is yours. Moments later the notification appeared as she felt some power surround her body. The world shifted around her and the next moment she appeared floating in the air in a strange room that was composed of many concentric lakes filled with a blood liquid that she knew was blood. Around her appeared hundreds of players who were feeling lost. They were the ones who died on the battlefield prior. First reward, a chance to bathe in the sacred blood pool. Effects: enhance bloodline, purify bloodline, grants strength, cures ailments, beautify skin, increase lifespan, enhance endurance. The closer to the central pond the greater the effect. Player Tulip. Stairs test greater than 55,000 points. Forest score greater than 12,000 points. Players killed 49 greater than 49,000 points. Jade tablet equals 3 greater than 300,000 points. Result: 412,000. First place. Congratulations. Tulip frowned as she felt a strange power slowly pull her toward the blood pond where numerous platforms suddenly rose from inside like pillars. Her hunch was telling her that there was something dangerous in here, yet somehow that everything will be alright. She didn't resist as she fell right on top of one of the pillars. The same happened to the other players who were pulled to their respective positions based on their scores. They all looked around in anticipation as the blood below them started to boil, turning into streams that began to climb the pillars toward them. Bath in glory, the notification said. Then it happened. Suddenly there was the sound of battle and screaming. Something was yelling but the sound was muffled. The players quickly stood up and began to look around searching for the origin when there was an explosion. From above the hall's roof suddenly exploded. Debris fell everywhere creating chaos and forcing the players to quickly leave their pillars to find shelter as the pool stopped boiling. Moments later, something fell from above like a shooting star into the central blood pool making a huge splash wave and rocking the ground under the players' feet. Poor Tulip who was beside it fell directly into the pool before she could do anything. Everyone looked warily and watched as the smoke from the falling debris cleared. There, a bandaged young man was kneeling on top and inserting his sword into the body of a giant rabbit, pushing it into the pit created by their fall and using it as a cushion. Ego ra ga ku el fa na ko ku pl. The rabbit screamed in a strange disturbing high-pitched language as it struggled to push the young man away. You are not the first demon to tell me that, the bandaged guy who was none other than Rain said with his signature sarcastic tone as he cut the rabbit's head then turned and used the sword again to cut into the empty air behind him where another huge humanoid rabbit holding an axe materialized and attacked. The sword met the axe and sparks flew as the rabbit was forced to step back and then look angrily at Rain and the dead rabbits at his feet. Ego e na el ku ha el ku koke, it yelled as it inspected Rain. Easy, this thing is not unkillable, so with enough strikes, it had to die. Rain said, throwing something at the rabbit who grabbed it and then frowned. It was the lock of the cage they used to imprison Rain in. It was broken in a strange way and wrapped inside its hole was a piece of paper. No, it was a talisman. The huge rabbit wanted to throw it away but it was too late. Boom! One rabbit exploded. It was not pretty. Death takes us all in the end, Rain said with a sigh. Warning. Player Rain Cleaver had decided to take all the rewards for himself. He killed the supervisor and plans to ruin the trial. Whoever kills him will be rewarded handsomely. A sudden notification suddenly sounded making all the players frown then start to attack Rain. Not all of them, just about 10% did. The ones who had tribal-looking clothes. The rest of the players just stood and watched with complex looks in their eyes. Tulip, who stood up from the pool as blood dripped from her hair, knew what she needed to do. She quickly hurried toward Rain and began to help him fend off the attackers. Ray and Harper also hurried to help her but she shot them a glare forcing them to stay away, they were too weak for such a battle. Tulip, Rain cried, did you change your hairstyle? He had to ask as he looked at her now bloody red sagging hair. Fuck you, Tulip cursed. What happened? She asked as she cut the throat of a menacing-looking man. Those idiot demons tried to entrap me wanting to eat me, this entire place is a trap. He said, the pools contain demon souls, they plan to force them inside the players' bodies. He said, thankfully, I managed to escape and stop the ceremony in time. He said as he killed another man. Those men stood no chance at all. Good, Tulip nodded, as she struck to the side but her sword found no one, the man who was there seemed to have retreated. In fact, in this simple exchange, 10 men died leaving about 15 tribal men who stopped attacking and looked back after noticing that half of them had died and that they were the only ones in this offense. The rest of the players in the back were just watching the show with a strange look in their eyes. Tro WRW, one man shouted to the other players. Meaning that they need help. The players ignored him, some just looked away embarrassingly while others made some middle finger sign that the tribal men didn't understand. They felt strange, what was going on? Warning, any player WHO does not attack Rain will be considered his accomplice. The system threw another notification. It was completely ignored by the players. You have been warned, this is your last chance. The system flashed. The players frowned but did nothing. Nothing happened. What is going on? One player asked. Who knows? Another replied, but His Highness was right. Definitely. Another said. Listening to them, Tulip felt strange. His Highness. Could they mean Vic? She wanted to ask but she couldn't as suddenly out of nowhere a lot of black smoke started to fill the room. It took mere seconds to reform into the shape of a huge black ominous-looking demonic rabbit that had 5 eyes and 3 ears. No sorry, that central one was a spiral horn, a rabbit can only have 2 ears. It just floated in midair for a few seconds before it fell right in front of Rain and right on top of the tribal men, killing them all in seconds as their bodies disintegrated, their flesh and bones turned into smoke and merged with the demon making it twice as large. It wanted to absorb the other players too, but strangely enough, it couldn't. How did you do it? The demon rabbit asked angrily as black flames sprung from his eyes. How? Why is it not working? It shouted. Easy, Rain said as he took out a glass cup from his pants. I just took out this thing, you should have placed more protection around it. He said naively thinking that by taking this, he was stopping the demon's plan. The shard, the demon howled, then attacked by breathing sharp needles at everyone. Thankfully, Rain was ready for it. As for Tulip, she quickly caught the sword Rain threw at her and began to use it for defense. Artifacts work now, she asked in surprise. This shard thing must have been the one disabling the use of weapons. He said. Oh, she nodded as she noticed how much this shard looked like the one the demon, the Nutcracker, took from Ray's temple. She decided to investigate this later as she hurried and parried the demon rabbit's attack. That thing seemed to have summoned a myriad of swords that came to life on their own and began to attack Rain and Tulip. Everyone watch out, Rain shouted warning the players, but it was for nothing. Looking back he noticed that the players were all fine as from somewhere all of them got huge wooden shields and used them to build a barricade. WTF, servants, come eat, the demon howled, making Rain silently curse and then prepare himself for the damn rabbits whom he expected to start attacking at any second. When he was locked before he saw those rabbits. They were very troublesome. The only reason he could escape this quickly was that they seemed to have been called somewhere. Rain waited nervously, thinking of a strategy to kill those things. No one came. Servants, the demon shouted again. Still, nothing happened. No servants appeared. What did you do to my servants? The demon asked angrily. How did you defeat them? They are unkillable in the cauldron. he asked in shock. I have no idea, Rain said looking around, making sure that this was not a trick. Go ra yaha. The demon howled and began to attack with everything it had, and slowly step by step with the help of Tulip, Rain began to push the demon back. It frowned. The flying swords that it was using to attack seemed to have decreased by half without it noticing. How? No. It howled as it collected the swords for one last attack, but they all fell to the ground seconds later. Didn't have a chance to wonder why the demon souls who controlled the swords stopped responding as suddenly it gasped as it looked back. Behind it, Tulip was pushing a long hairpin inside of its body, directly into its heart. She slowly took the hairpin out, then wiped it with a handkerchief as she walked slowly returning toward Rain, not bothering to look at the demon who began to disintegrate. You could have done that from the start. Rain complained as he fell to the ground and watched the demon disintegrate. I only had one shot. I had to make sure that no others were coming, she said as suddenly she paused. There was a strange feeling flowing into her body. Congrats on finishing the moon trial. Enjoy these free attributes as a gift from the Emperor. Everyone will get +1 authority, +5 strength, +5 agility, +5 intelligence, +1 luck, +1 charm. Remember, sooner or later, the Emperor will come to collect his debts. Stay safe until then. A sudden notification alerted Tulip as she felt her status climb up and the world began to wrap around her. In the next moment, she was ejected outside of the moon dungeon and returned to the abandoned dungeon she was in with Ray and Rain, who began to look around in shock. Did we finish just like that? Rain asked in shock. This was too fast. What happened? He asked as we watched Tulip grab her trusty umbrella and storage ring that appeared next to her. She lost them inside, but as branded items, they would always appear next to their master when exiting the negative space. This felt strange. Who was the Emperor the notification mentioned? Ray asked. It was probably that bastard. Tulip frowned as she quickly reached for her pocket and took a small silver storage ring. She opened it and inside of it, there was only one letter. Dear Juicy Turnip Von Crone. This Emperor couldn't tell you many things inside, fearing that you will distrust me or that the demons WHO were listening and might figure something out. This Emperor belongs to an organization that is built to fight demons everywhere, and as you have seen, the moon dungeon is a demonic trap. Thankfully everything was within this honorable one's calculations and you should have arrived outside safely. Now that you are out, I have some info to tell you. First, it is about the Nutcracker, a demon WHO crossed into our realm a few months ago. Be careful and stop trying to find it. That thing already killed 17 of our finest men. You are not its opponent. Secondly, it is about the demons. It had been noted that in a month they will be holding a trip on a cruise ship, the Three-Horned Dragon. It is in the southern sea near your grandfather's palace. It is definitely a trap to select people for possession, so be careful. Finally, your mother Princess Catalia was poisoned. It is most likely her brother-in-law, the patriarch of the Von Crone family. The poison is called the Widow's Vengeance. It will make your mother not only lose her ability to give birth, but also poison any man WHO sleeps with her, making him impotent. It has no cure once it was activated. Thankfully the poison will not be activated until your mother bangs your father, which will happen in less than 6 months after your lost sister goes back to the Von Crone family. You have to hurry and find the materials to the cure. They are rare. Here is the way to cure it. If you need to contact this Emperor, write a message then send it to 24 Trop Street, Balta City, Pond Democratic Republic. I will send someone to get it. Faithfully yours, the one and only Emperor of the world, Vic Volt. My name is fucking Tulip. Bastard, she yelled angrily after reading the letter, startling both Ray and Rain.